Good evening, it being close to 6:30. We are conducting this meeting of the Brockton Conservation Commission remotely in accordance with Governor Healy's open meeting provisions, updated in March of 2023, which extended certain COVID-19 provisions until March 31st of 2025. Real-time participation and comment can be addressed to the Conservation Commission using the Zoom virtual meeting software for remote access. If you wish to comment during a public input portion of the hearing, please use the raise your hand function to be addressed at the appropriate time. For those of you joining by phone only, please press *9 to raise your hand. A copy of this recording will be on the city's webpage. Please note that this is a professional meeting. Should disrespectful or inappropriate statements be made during the meeting, the host reserves the right to mute the speaker. All votes taken during this meeting will be done by a roll call vote to ensure count accuracy. Commissioners, if you could state both your first and last name so that we might determine quorum.
Ruby Clay.
Lily Green.
And Joyce Voris. So 3 of the 5 members are here establishing quorum. Due to the extensive nature of this agenda, applicants are being asked to keep their presentations to a maximum of 10 minutes, please. And Agent Holden, will you be able to time that?
Yeah, I can do that for you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Before I actually begin the meeting, I would like to ask Mr. May to present information about, well, go ahead, Rob, if you'd like to take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
As many of you know, the city's contract with our house doctor, which is Beta Group, expires on June 30th of this year. We have been attempting to secure additional house doctor assistance. One of those attempts failed to bring anybody to the table. We're hoping that we can get an emergency temporary contract underway with somebody so that we don't shut down the city. The responses to that RFP are due on Friday at noon. So I will know at that time if anybody has applied, and I will send that information to the commissioners so that they can all rate any of the respondents. One of the things that makes this whole process a little bit more difficult is that Monday night, City Council passed an ordinance that reshapes the way boards and commissions hire outside consultants for third-party review. Going forward, assuming that this becomes law, the board or council or commission through the planning department would keep a list of qualified technical assistance providers in basically a pool of pre-qualified service providers. As an application comes in, the department is then supposed to transmit that application to all of those pre-qualified service providers. And when they have, and the service providers have 10 days to return a scope of work and a fee proposal. Upon receipt of that fee proposal, that information is then transmitted to the applicant, and the applicant will decide who they are choosing to do their independent third-party review. So basically, the only authority you have as a commission from now going forward is to determine who is considered qualified and who is not. And that's the end of my presentation. Without editorializing, that is the end of my presentation.
With a very quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it limited only to 3 qualified providers that would be in that pool? I thought it was only limited to 3.
We can have as many pre-qualified as we want. We have to send the proposal out to a minimum of 3 pre-qualified service providers.
Sounds confusing.
It's a tad confusing. It's a tad, never mind, I'll leave that alone. But when we set out our first RFP, we were trying to compromise with City Council, and we were going to try to hire 3 independent consulting firms. Right now, we only have 1 because Beta Group was the only one that bid on the contract 5 years ago. That RFP that went out, I had no one respond to. And as we went and talked to the respondents, or the lack of respondents, went and talked to our contacts at those companies, they told us that the work is it's not a big enough contract or amount of work to divide between 3 consulting firms, because the contract would have, the projects would have rotated between the firms, so that everybody got a shot at it. This new process where there's not a guaranteed income and there's not a guaranteed amount of work, I think is going to be very difficult for service providers to want to become pre-qualified. And so with the contract expiring, anything that is being added or introduced to the commission tonight, we'll have to wait for technical review until we have had a chance to solicit responses through a public RFP process, which will take 30 days. And then the commission will have a chance to review those applications and determine who is qualified and who is not qualified. At that point in time, once we have people qualified, we'll be able to send those applications to those pre-qualified service providers for them to propose a scope of work and a fee. And you don't have any role in determining what that scope of work is. You're only, or who gets that contract. Your only role is to determine who is pre-qualified. And this ordinance is not just for the Conservation Commission. It affects the Planning Board. It will affect the Historic District Commission once it is approved. It should also affect the Stormwater Authority once that is appointed. So this will be an interesting process going forward.
Mm-hmm. So if
Thank
the
you.
intent, if the intent is to streamline the process, I'm not sure that I see it reflected. But time will
Best
tell.
intentions.
Mm. Okay, so anyone that we're going to be referring out then from this point forward would have to be under that new, the new guidelines. Is that correct? Or
Yes, ma'am.
okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions or anything?
No questions for me.
The only question I guess would be just how, I guess later as a commission, we go about forming that list of what's pre-qualified.
In the RFP that we'll be sending out, there are a list of minimum qualifications that will have to be, that the respondents will have to clear the first hurdle. And then there's maybe 12 other points that you will grade them on as to whether they're highly advantageous, satisfactory, not advantageous. And you'll read their statements of qualifications, you'll look at the material, and then you'll compare them, and individually you will determine what your score is. And then as a group, and I guess that'll have to be in another public meeting, you will then meld all of your scores together to get a final score and final recommendation as to who is qualified and who is not.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Interesting. There is a question in the audience, and it is our DPW commissioner. And so I am going, Madam Chair, may I unlock his mic?
Please do. It's fine.
Good evening, Pat.
There we go. Sorry about that. Just a quick question, Rob, just because I was looking through the council orders. Has that been finalized yet? Because it doesn't appear to me as though it has been. I know it went to ordinance and went out recommended favorably, but I don't see it in the signed orders that came across today.
It was signed on, or it was voted on Monday night. And maybe it is one of those orders that the mayor has not quite signed yet. He has until Thursday, I think, end of business to determine whether.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was I didn't know if that was the first reading and it had to go back to finance and then back to council for a final reading. Is this the first time it's been read?
No, it's been going on since April.
Because I was at that ordinance meeting in June, maybe. When it came out, however it came out favorably, not favorably, because I had my sewer request in. I'm just thinking that there's no way in my mind anyway that it could have gone through that whole process already, but maybe I'm wrong.
I did get this information from the city clerk. I will confirm it tomorrow.
Okay.
Anybody else? Counselor or commissioners? Excuse me. I've elevated you guys. If not, I will turn this back over to Kyle, and we'll talk to you in the very near future.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Well, Kyle, was there anything else that you wanted to add before I took the?
No, I don't have anything else to add. Thank you.
Okay.
Kyle, I'm making you host now.
All right. Thank you, Rob.
I almost signed out without doing that. I would have gone blank. You're now host.
Let's see what's my agenda. I'm sorry. I thought I had everything ready here and I don't. Oh, here it is. Okay. First item on the agenda, meeting minutes from May 15th. Commissioners, have you had a chance to read the minutes from May 15th? Do you have any questions or comments?
No questions, no comments. They've been read.
No questions or comments.
Okay, I entertain a motion, please, to accept the minutes from May 15th.
I make a motion to accept the minutes from May 15th.
I second that motion.
Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Green eye.
And Boris, aye. That passes. Thank you. Okay, so the first item on the agenda, real item on the agenda under new filings, would be your certificate of compliance for the easement between Alger, Thatcher, and Southfield for a Whitman 20-inch forced main sewer replacement. Do we have a representative from the applicant?
We do. I'm going to promote Andrew Grotta to a panelist. Anyone else that is here to speak to this, please raise your hand in the chat, and I will promote you. Thank you.
Andrew Grotta.
That's correct.
Hello, Andrew. Welcome.
Thank you. Alrighty. Permission to share my screen?
Certainly.
Great. Ready. All right. Can you guys see my screen okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I know I've been before the commission before, so thank you again for having me back. My name is Andrew Grotta. I'm a project manager with Environmental Partners Group in Quincy. I'm speaking on behalf of the Town of Whitman Department of Public Works on the 20-inch sewer force main replacement project. This project has had a pretty long history. Originally, the project itself was had an approved order of conditions back in December of 2020. I think last I had spoken with you folks, we had requested an extension on the permit because we were going up against the 3-year completion of the original order of conditions. So this is just a figure just to provide a little context. So the project itself was replacing about 16,000 linear feet of 20-inch ductile iron force main pipe. This is the main sewer line that runs from the town of Whitman to the city of Brockton for treatment. In general, Whitman sends, I would say, 95 to 99% of its flow through this line. And basically it runs along Auburn Street in Whitman, through a cross-country easement into Brockton, across Alger Street, and then through another long cross-country easement past Thatcher, behind the abandoned or capped landfill, and then discharges on the Southfield Drive. So just some history. So the project itself, like I said, was originally approved under the order of conditions in late 2020. We put the project out to bid in late 2021. The project itself was awarded to C. Naughton Corp. of Bridgewater, and they promptly began construction in the spring. I know we did begin the easement work. I believe it was that summer of 22. And we were able to successfully install and commission the entirety of the pipeline and get that commissioned in the fall of 23. So ever since the project has started, we've been putting together typical biannual reports. This is required by the order of conditions. This is the latest version of the report. We've retained Pine Brook Consulting as our firm that did the original wetland delineation. They've been doing the biannual reports for you folks. And we've been attaching some photos just to document the condition of the easement. In general, the project went really well. Obviously, we're dealing with some pretty challenging conditions. As you can see in some of the photos, there's some standing water here. Obviously, groundwater was a huge issue during our project. We had to cross a 300 to 400-foot segment of Beaver Brook, which proved to be challenging. We ended up doing that via directional drilling. But ultimately, the contractor performed the work that was slated and followed the conditions well, and ultimately got the project done. So as part of the order, we had submitted the final record drawings for the project. Those were submitted as part of the biannual report this past month. And we had submitted a request for a certificate of compliance for the project. I understand that Kyle had visited the site with Brooke and provided his agent report, which I'm sure he'll get into in a moment. I think in general, the report outlines some additional erosion controls and some sediment piles, some additional matting that has to be removed from the site. We take no exception to that. That would be something the contractor would remove as part of their closeout of the project. They basically have, since the completion of the force main, they've been working on punch list items over the winter and are essentially nearing completion for the entirety of the job. So technically, they're still under contract through the town. We're still holding a little bit of money on the contract for them to do any final cleanup type items. But in general, I know they did seed and restore the easement last fall. And it appears that, based on some of the photos from Brooks' report, that is coming to fruition in terms of the growth and vegetation that's coming back. So just in closing, I would just say, respectfully ask for a certificate of compliance based on following the conditions of the permit, obviously with the condition of removing those excess materials. And again, that's all I have at this time. So happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Was there someone else from your company? Lisa Sherman, was there anything that you'd like to speak to?
I don't believe that she's.
I'm on. Yeah, I'm on for the next one. Thank you,
okay.
though, Madam
All right,
Chair.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
Okay. Kyle?
Sure. Yeah. So I've sent you all my agent report. More or less, as Andrew had mentioned, I went out there on site with Brooke when she was doing her most recent site visit. And yes, there are some construction materials that are kind of still in place in the easement that I outlined in the agent report. So that, in conjunction with the seeding not quite becoming established when they seeded the easement of the disturbed areas. My recommendation in the report is to deny this request for certificate of compliance, mainly because once we issue the certificate, the commission loses out on any kind of like leverage outside of just like good faith that the applicant will follow through on any of these things. And Andrew, that's no poor reflection on you, but like that's just, you know, I'm just wanting the commission to be aware of that. I mean, the commission can choose to issue this certificate of compliance. The work is done. They have demonstrated, you know, that they are, you know, trying to work within the constraints of the order. But I just don't think that it's done to the T, and I'm not sure that the commission should be issuing the certificate of compliance before everything's kind of wrapped up and confirmed. But that's just my recommendation. And that's all I've got, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Kyle, do you have any photos at all of the?
No, I didn't bother taking any when I was out there because everything that I kind of say in my agent report is also mentioned in Brooks' report. So no, I don't have any photos handy.
I know I did have a couple photos attached to the report that I provided as part of the biannual summary. And I think it's pretty striking when you look at the difference between the ones we did from last November to the ones that I think you saw in the field the other day, Kyle. You know, the vegetation out there is clearly, it is starting to grow. And I think ultimately the, you know, the challenging part is that, you know, we're in the season now where you have a lot of that water that's kind of sitting there. And I think you had even mentioned in your report, there was some tire tracks or marks from ATVs and dirt bikes that might be going through that area. So, you know, I'm just concerned if we had to reseed, we probably don't have that ability at this point. It probably would have to be in the fall. And then at that point, there'd be some additional time to see it through. So again, I understand, you know, the position of the commission. You know, either way, I just wanted to, you know, present our case and say, you know, we are willing to, you know, do whatever's necessary to close this out. I think in general, like I said, you know, happy to remove any materials as part of a condition to, you know, see this through.
Okay, thank you, commissioners.
I kind of agree with Kyle's recommendation. I think it would be best practice if we make sure everything meets what it's supposed to under the current conditions and make sure that the vegetation is reseeded if in fact it needs to be. But we just need to make sure that all of the construction, the remaining gravel and the excess concrete and all the remaining erosion controls are taken care of. I wouldn't be comfortable with moving forward without making sure that work is actually completed.
Yeah, and I think, like I mentioned earlier, Ruby, I know we technically still have the contract open with the general contractor. You know, we are holding a little bit of money on the contract and they're still within their warranty period. So as far as actually having them do any corrective work, you know, that shouldn't be a problem. And like I said, I know we do acknowledge that there are materials that have to be removed from the site.
Lily, any questions or recommendations?
No, I just agree with Ruby that it'd be more comfortable to make sure that the material is definitely removed and just to make sure that the seeding has taken.
Okay, so it sounds to me that the commission is looking for, oh, are there any public, is there any public here? Or there's no reason?
I have one hand that's been raised, so I'm going to go ahead and
Okay.
promote Scott Daggett.
Okay.
But I don't believe that like
It's
we have to
necessary
have a
for-
public hearing
yeah,
for
yeah.
this.
Yeah, for COC.
So I have promoted Scott. I'm not sure if he's wanting to speak to this or not, though.
Scott, you're muted right now?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Scott Daggett, Senior Project Manager for Farland Corp. I was curious if this particular sewer line is the one that crosses through 511 Thatcher Street, the auto salvage yard?
That's correct.
Okay. The reason why I have some curiosity concerning that is because I've been trying to get some as-built information because there's a solar project that's going to be going up, and I want to, you know, I do have some information regarding that, but I want to make sure that I can check it against what I have, because we don't want to be putting in these piles for the for the solar panels and, the solar canopies and run into any problems with the underground sewer line. So is there any way that I could, I know this is a little bit off topic, regarding what's, being discussed, but I was just curious if there's any way that I can get, as-built information showing where the line is and anything that can show me where the easement
Mr. Daggett,
into the property.
Mr. Daggett, do you think you could do that through Mr. Holden tomorrow, perhaps?
Sure,
Yeah,
yes. I can reach out to Kyle tomorrow.
That would be great. Thank you. And I do believe the solar project is on tonight's agenda.
Yes, it is. That's why I'm attending.
Okay. If you could do that through Mr. Holden, that would be wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. So commissioners, I'm tending to believe that you're considering at this point in time to deny the request for the certificate or deny the certificate. Wait a minute, I'm sorry. Yeah, we're going to deny the request for the COC and ask for it to be refiled at a later date. Is that correct? Once all of the things have been attended to. Okay, yeah, entertain a motion then, please.
Okay, I make a motion to deny the request for the certificate of compliance for the Whitman 20-inch force main sewer replacement.
I second that motion.
Okay, so that request has been denied with an understanding that, of course, you would come forward once everything has been completed.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. And, I think as Kyle mentioned, we can put together the next biannual summary, which will be due, I think, this December. So
Sure,
we can look again at that point.
Yeah, yeah. And hopefully seeds won't be washing away.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right. Thank you very much.
Madam
Thank you for your
Chair,
time.
we only we didn't actually vote. We just had a first and second. We didn't do it.
I'm sorry. Roll call vote.
Clay, aye.
Green eye.
And Boris, aye. Thank you. Kyle. Okay, the
Thank you.
motion passes. Okay, thank you, Mr. Grota.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, have a lovely day.
You too. Bye.
Okay, the next item on the agenda will be a notice of intent, which is again a new filing. This is for Warren Avenue two-way conversion project. Is there a DEP file number that has been issued and have the abutters been notified?
So yes, they did issue the DEP file number today with no technical comments. And we have confirmed that abutters have been properly notified.
Okay, thank you. And this is a project with the city of Brockton, is that correct?
Yeah, the city of Brockton is the applicant. That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so applicants first.
So my name is Lisa Sherman. I'm with CDM Smith, and I will be presenting the project this evening on behalf of the city of Brockton and the Department of Public Works. May I share my screen? Yes. So our project is to convert Warren Avenue from one-way traffic to two-way traffic. And this is in support of the public safety building. But this discussion this evening is focused solely on the roadway project. And if you would like, I could bring up a map, but the project extents are from Belmont Street all the way north to Pleasant Street. And the intent of the project is to convert the corridor to be two-way traffic. To support that two-way traffic flow, we will be installing new traffic signal equipment. We will be reconstructing the roadway and the sidewalks, and all new pavement markings and all new traffic signs. So as part of the project, because we are working near Belmont Street, there is a small portion of work that is within the 25-foot no-touch zone riverfront area, the 50-foot riverfront area, and the 100-foot buffer zone of inland bank on Salisbury Brook. And so the plan that I have illustrated here illustrates those areas of work. And I'll walk you through what the work is near this resource. In this section here, and this gives you the approximate areas of the impacts, temporary impacts. And all of this material was included in our application. Can everyone see the plan clearly?
Mhm.
Okay, great, thank you. So the work that we will be doing as part of the two-way conversion project here is we will be milling and overlaying pavement from this point here up to this point here along Belmont Street. And from this point, moving further, it is what we call full depth pavement reconstruction. We will have some sidewalk work. You can see that this is the limit of our sidewalk work right here. We will not be doing sidewalk work beyond this line, and it will just be pavement work on the roadway here, along the existing pavement that's there now. So you can see here the different lines for the impact areas. And here this line is our limit of 25-foot riverfront area and no touch zone. This line here is our 50-foot line. And this line here is our 100-foot buffer zone. So you can see that the work is temporary because we are just going to be milling and overlaying. And that, does everyone understand milling and overlay?
Milling is grinding it all up.
Milling, when you mill, you're only grinding about 2 inches of the pavement at most. And you can see it happens a lot on the highway, like on 24 and everything, where they just take the very surface course of the pavement off and then they repave with new pavement. So that's what I mean by milling and overlaying. Mm-hmm. And so anything that this small amount of work here will be, we go deeper with the mill to reconstruct more of the pavement. So in general, that is the illustration of the work proposed near the resource. Kyle, I'm not sure if you wanted anything else presented to the commission.
No, I think that's a pretty good summary to begin with.
Okay,
thank you, Lisa.
great, thank you.
And then Belmont currently is one way. I'm sorry, not Belmont. I mean, Warren Avenue is currently one way from north to south, right?
That's correct. It is, Warren Ave is a one-way southbound roadway.
Yeah, okay. And the safety building, is that going to be on Pleasant Street?
So the safety building is actually going to be between, it is along Warren Avenue. It is between West Elm Street and Highland Street.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
I can certainly show you a map if that would be helpful. Give me 1 second.
The old Keith School property,
Okay.
Thank you, Pat.
or the old
Thank you,
high
Pat.
school, I guess,
Yep.
years ago
Yep.
was the old high school.
Yep. Okay.
I'll just, oops.
I don't know why I thought it was in a different place.
I can share my screen on this other screen. Maybe I can't. Can everyone see the map?
Yes.
So this is our project.
Yep.
It's actually, it does go to Spring Street. Apologies. And here's Belmont Street. And so this is the old Keith School.
Yep.
Here. So this is going to be the public safety complex.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Kyle, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, just to, I guess I can just summarize, my agent report and the recommendation, and really just the recommendation. So, and this is all kind of tied into what Rob was presenting at the beginning of the meeting, but ultimately there is some stormwater improvements that are being done in a very small portion of the roadway. But it is within that 100-foot buffer to bank. So that said, the commission should review that stormwater report, and because we don't have that technical expertise in-house, that needs to be referred to a third-party consultant to do that. So I know there's some uncertainty as to who will be doing that work right now, but the recommendation that I have is that the commission go ahead and vote to refer this project out for that third party review, and then whenever that gets kind of lined up as far as the city, which what avenue they're going to be pursuing, as soon as that becomes clear, the planning department and myself can begin that review process, so we don't have to wait until the next meeting to initiate a peer review.
Sounds reasonable.
And I think for this one, it would just be for the stormwater. I don't think we need a review of the performance standards. I can do that.
Regarding the performance standards, I just had one quick question. I read through the narrative and the NOI, and there were a few places where it referred to sedimentation and erosion control. And I couldn't seem to find it in the document. I don't know if you have a sedimentation erosion control section. I couldn't seem to find it in the file. And it just,
I could go back. Sure. Let me, if you don't mind, if I could go back to Madam Chair, if you don't mind, if I share my screen again. That is this line work right here.
yep.
And it would be the current, and please bear with me because I'm not a
No, it's fine.
permitting person, but I believe it's the wattles, whatever the current use is. I think it's the wattles or it's a erosion barrier.
Yep. It just mentioned something about it being in the narrative, and I just didn't see it. There have been some issues with erosion control and sedimentation that we're kind of dealing with. So I'd like to just see what you had together for that. And it's nothing I need to read now. I just need to be able to find it.
Okay. Are you looking for what type it is? Like what the treatment type is?
Well, it just, let me see, what did it say?
So there's two
An
treatment-
erosion control plan was the wording. I think it was on page 7 and page 8.
Okay. I do have the application here, so we can, oops. I'm completely lost. I have too many windows.
I know, I do too. Two computers. And I don't need it now. If you'd like to just send it to me at another time, that's fine. I just was curious because I saw it referred.
Madam Chair, we do have one hand raised from the attendees at the meeting.
A hand raised from where?
Just one of the attendees, Jonathan Geary.
Could we hear from commissioners first? And
Absolutely.
yeah, why don't we hear from commissioners first and certainly refer to the public after that? Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments or?
Not really. I mean, I guess like Kyle said, we probably just send it out for the stormwater peer review following the newly adopted city council procedure. So, I mean, I guess that's what we would do. And then does that go to the July meeting after that? If that's what we're doing, does that go to the next meeting or?
I would expect it would be, would expect it would have to go to whichever meeting.
Right. But okay, right. Following said process once we obtain someone. Okay.
So Jonathan Geary is actually my colleague, and I think he's trying to get on to help me say the word compost socks. I don't know why I could not pull that out of my.
Yeah, it's page 33, Madam Chair. It says compost sock area.
What, hold on, 33?
Yes. Well, page A3 of the appendix if you want to be specific.
All right, Madam Chair, we are over 10 minutes, just so you are aware.
That's fine. I'll be happy to find it. I just wanted to make sure that there was something there that, okay, the mitigation measures. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Would it be possible for me to just ask a quick question? And this is just due to the project itself, because it's critical that this project moves forward quickly so that the city can occupy the public safety building. They've already committed that they will not occupy the public safety building until this two-way project has been completed. In order to stay on a timeline that's already been pushed, and it has nothing to do with anybody here on this call, I'm concerned that not getting some form of approval or a path forward may delay this even more. So, and maybe this question is for Kyle, or maybe it's for the whole commission. I don't know. If the ordinance is, or I think it is, and we have to wait through this process to get someone else on board or several people on board, is it possible for the DPW to pay to have an independent peer review through the commission, so that we can keep this project moving rather than delay it possibly till September or October before we get finalization on this?
So, Mr. Hill, are you suggesting that it be done in-house or?
No, I'm not suggesting it be done in-house. I'm suggesting that a peer review be done, that I think I'm comfortable saying that we could finance that, whomever you choose, just to review this individual project. But I don't know, one, if anybody has the authority to do that, two, if that's something you would even consider, and three, this is all hinging on the fact that I don't think the ordinance has been passed yet. So I just see that as a further delay. If it has to go back to more readings of the council in summer session, they only meet, twice a month as opposed to 4 times a month. So I'm really getting concerned the timeline on my project.
What's today's date? The 26th. Can we refer to beta tonight?
So unfortunately, we are unable to do that. And Road can maybe speak to this if she's here. We've kind of passed the window. I mean, that's what I initially tried to do with these 2 projects, was to get these referred to beta initially. Pat, I unfortunately don't have an answer to those questions. Everything's been so up in the air with this whole new ordinance thing the last 2 or 3 days. I just don't have a straight answer for you. I think that maybe if the commission is willing to vote to have a peer review done, then you and I can be in communication with this after the meeting tonight. We can check with the city solicitor's office and just see if that's something that's appropriate. But I just don't know, unfortunately.
On board, I'm not trying to do anything other than stay on a timeline that's gonna, this is a legacy project, right? And if they can't open that building because I got delayed by 3 more months, and there was something I could have done, I just feel like I have to make every effort to try to make something work.
Sounds reasonable. So, commissioners?
Just a quick question, Kyle. So if we do the peer review and you work behind the scenes, once you get, like, I guess, finalized feedback on what this ordinance means and how it means moving forward, at that point, could you work with Patrick to move this forward, or would it need to come before the commission again?
No, I think if the commission votes to have this referred out for peer review, just in general, without really specifying the process that we're going to be doing, I think that's all that we kind of need to have the authority to kind of do what we need to once this kind of gets ironed out, to move it forward before the next meeting of the commission in July.
Okay, yeah. So I'm in agreement with voting that way.
Okay. Would you like to make a motion, Ruby?
I'd like to make a motion. This is on the notice of intent, right? I make a motion, but this is going to be continuing, right? Or
yeah, because it has to go for a period.
Right. So I make a motion to continue to the next date based on for, which one is this? The Warren Ave 2A conversion project for the stormwater peer review.
I second that motion.
So the motion's been made and seconded to refer the Warren Avenue 2-way conversion project to refer it out for stormwater review, and then to continue to the next meeting. And hopefully all of the little players will be able to resolve everything in that meantime.
Okay.
You, everybody.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
we just need to do roll call, Joyce.
Yeah, a vote, yeah. Okay, thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, I.
Green eye.
And Boris, aye. That motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye-bye. Okay. Item 3 on the agenda is 1380, let me see, yeah. 1380 Main Street, Campello Towers Modernization Project. Also has a DEP file number and a butters notification been verified.
I'm checking on the DEP file number now. We didn't have one as of last week, or actually even this earlier today. But butters have been properly notified for this project.
Okay, thank you.
If you are in the attendees list, thank you, Steve. I'm going to promote you. If anyone else is here to speak to this project, please raise your hand and we can promote you up. Thank you.
Stephen Sawyer.
All right. Excuse me. Good evening. My name's Stephen Sawyer. I'm with GM2 Associates. We are the civil engineer on the project, working in behalf of Brockton Housing Authority for basically the modernization of the Campello Towers. I'm going to kind of keep this very quick. We have 10 minutes. It's a big project, so I think what I'll do is jump right into it. I'm not sure. I'm looking to see if there's any. I don't see anybody from the Housing Authority, but I think I'm here to introduce the project and we'll run through it quickly. So I'll share my screen if that's okay. Looks like I have the. All righty. So can everyone see the screen now?
Yes, thank you.
All right, so project, I'm sure everyone's familiar with the Campello Towers in Brockton here. Is Main Street. Main Street running on the west side, and we have Plain Street here. The resource areas that we're dealing with that impact the property is the Salisbury Plain River at the rear of the property here. We do have the French Brook here. It's culverted underneath Main Street, and then it daylights out and and ties into the Salisbury Plain River at this location. So the plan is we have Tower A, Tower B, and the plan is to build 3 buildings to replace these 2 buildings. It's going to be a long project, phased. Part of the project is this is a self-help facility here. This facility will be taken over. The first building A, you'll see on the plan shortly, will be located in this area. The second building, building 2, will be located in this area, and building 3 will be located roughly in the area of Tower A. So that is the location of the project. I think what I'm going to do now, I might as well just jump right into the plans and keep this rolling. So did this jump to the next? I just need to make sure it jumped to the next slide.
It did. Yep.
It did. Okay. So now, all right. So we're looking at the existing conditions plan here. So back in, I think it was December of 23 or 22, 23, we did come into the commission for an RDA. And the RDA was solely to confirm the flood zone. So as far as the resource areas where that is impacting the property, probably the most extensive is the bordering land subject to flooding from the Salisbury Plain River. This blue dotted line indicates the current flood zone as confirmed by the RDA. You'll notice there's this hatched area or this dotted line here. This is Tower B, which is actually set just above, the first floor is just above the flood. Let's see, the flood zone was confirmed at elevation 76.9. So the building itself is actually out of the flood, but it's surrounded by flood zone. Excuse me, flood zone. So we have the French Brook that is culverted underneath Main Street. It daylights out for a small little area here. There's a little sump here, and then it's culverted, or there's a large CMP 6-foot diameter pipe that conveys it to where it daylights out along the south side of the property. Salisbury Plain River rolls around this side of the property. I think probably what might be appropriate is I'm going to jump back from this plan to show you some photos, show photos from the property. I think that would be appropriate. So, okay, did we jump back to the photos?
Yeah, looks like
Perfect. Okay, it's all working. We're all working well. I like it when that happens. All right, so this is looking down into, there's a large box culvert down at the bottom side of the sheet here where it daylights out. And this box culvert is from, is underneath Main Street. And then it runs into this corrugated metal pipe here where it's conveyed out, conveyed across the property where it then daylights out. And so this is the French Brook, which is actually, it's mapped or it's classified as an intermittent stream, this portion of the property. And then let's go to sorry, I'm gonna jump around. Okay, so in the rear is the Salisbury Plain River, which is it's a much larger stream, of course. As you work towards, this is looking here, there's a concrete bulkhead that protects the bank. And then as the river rolls around the corner, you can see there is some erosion on the river. This portion of the land is right on the city property and the housing authority line right here where the erosion is present. So yeah, and then I'll probably just show you. So this is looking down, this area here is where the culvert daylights out and the French Brook continues to the Salisbury Plain River. And let's see, jumping through a little bit. Have we seen that? Okay. All right. I think that'll cover it for the photos. I'm going to jump back to the plans, to the proposed plans. So as you can see, what we have flood zone, we have the river, we have a floodway, and then we do have the other resource areas bank. So the bank to the streams. In orange here, the orange highlighted area is a 25-foot no touch, and then the green is a 100-foot buffer. As you can see, Tower B is right up touching the 25-foot no touch area. You have Tower A, which actually is same. This is the edge of Tower A, very close to the stream, to the French Brook area. There is parking within the 25-foot here, parking in this location. And then this is flagged as bank, which, as you saw, this is kind of an interesting little kettle hole where the culvert comes in and the culvert comes out. I'm not sure as far as I guess as far as the importance of that bank area, but still there's a roadway, there's a drive and parking within that location. So overall, the plan is to demolish these two towers, remove all the paving and rebuild the property. This will be happening. What I'm presenting tonight is the final conditions. The first phase would not even impact it. The first phase of the work is totally out of the buffer, but I'm presenting the final conditions tonight. Okay, so here we go. We have building 1. This will be the first phase. So this building will be constructed at the beginning of the process. When we do construct that, Tower B and Tower A, which is, it's hard to see here, it is in this location right in here. It's hard to see the existing conditions in the background. But so building 1 will be constructed. Second phase, building 2. Third phase, building 3. But as you can see in the completed condition, we've pulled the buildings completely out of the 100-foot buffer. All the buildings now are completely out of the 100-foot buffer. We're reducing the impact within the 25-foot substantially. All the parking is pulled out. We do have a small strip of walkway. There's going to be a walkway from Main Street that'll circulate residents, and actually it's open to the public to an area here. This was previously parking right up against right at the rear of the property towards the Salisbury Plain River. This will all become a seating, a sitting area, park area. with reduced impact and planting within the buffer zone. The 25, I'll show you the 25 I'll show you the planting plan later, but there is native planting all within the 25-foot buffer and also the 50-foot buffer. So one of the important items is the flood zone. We are working in the flood zone. We're allowed to regrade in the flood zone so long as we don't increase any fill. There's no net fill below the floodplain. So what we're doing is within this area in red, we're cutting or creating storage in the floodplain, as you can see within the existing building. The area green, we're filling. But the net result is we're actually creating additional storage for flood compensation within the bordering land subject to flooding. And the second item is we're lifting the proposed building out of the flood we're setting that elevation at 79, which the current flood zone is at 76.9. So we're actually 2 feet. We've set this 2 feet above the flood, where currently this existing building is right at flood. So we're increasing the resiliency or providing much better resiliency for future flood conditions for the new building at that location. You know, of course, we would like to raise it more, but unfortunately, I think as we do that, we start to off balance. You know, we end up filling in the floodplain, which we're not allowed to do. So I think this is a good balance where we're at. Right now, the building code requires that you're 1 foot above. We're actually 2 foot above. So that's I think we're providing a great benefit there. So currently there's no stormwater management on the property. Everything is piped, or there's a stormwater easement through the property that conveys water from Montella Street extension through the property to the French Brook. What I've highlighted here is all of the stormwater mitigation. Due to the complexity of the site, the density of the site, and the fact that we're going to need to maintain residents on site, all of the stormwater management systems are going to be placed underground. So we have these large concrete chambers that we're going to be setting around the site where stormwater will be held and infiltrated. And what's achieved at those locations is we're going to meet the full.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, we okay?
Yes, I hear.
What we achieve at this location, what we achieve now is full compliance with stormwater quality and stormwater recharge.
So those green rectangles are all stormwater.
And they're not the plastic. These are the large concrete chambers, so they're robust, and they can pull out. They easy to access. It's easy to access and maintain, and they provide a substantial amount of storage. So the stormwater plan here is we are going to fully comply with it is a redevelopment project, but we're ripping up and starting over again. We actually going to fully comply with the stormwater standards. It's actually fairly easy. That the other big standard is standard 2. Standard 2 is not reducing the rate of the flow off the property. So with the redevelopment of this property, we're actually reducing the impervious cover and increasing landscape area. That by itself will satisfy standard 2. So really what we need to really dig in and take care of is the stormwater quality and recharge standards. So that is our stormwater program here. And I'm going to jump down to landscape. See if I can hit that. All right. So here's our final landscape plan. As you can see, the orange is the 25-foot buffer. And as you can see, all the paving has been pulled as far out of the buffer zone as we can. The parking area is fully now outside of the 25-foot. It is within the 25 and 100, but any of that impervious surface will be mitigated, or we're mitigating the water quality and recharge of that pavement. And as you can see, there's planting throughout this entire area. There is an existing stormwater basin here that we're looking to revegetate with native seed mix. Currently, the existing site dumps into this basin. It's in very poor condition. It's not particularly aesthetically pleasing to look at, and we're looking to provide some seating and a walkway, and we're looking to revegetate that. And our current We are maintaining a discharge to their area with our current stormwater, but we're looking to clean it up. It would be, you know, vegetated like as a bioretention area with some native seed mix. So we are planting trees, a seed mix. It's a native mix. It's going to include wildflowers, milkweeds, and such in this area. So this area will be greatly improved. Currently, it's mowed lawn along this edge, and so we're looking to revegetate it with a natural buffer between the park, this walkway, and the facility.
Mhm.
And I try to keep it quick so we can open it up to questions. But I think that covers it. So basically, the phasing is building 1 gets constructed and the 2 towers remain. Building 2 gets constructed and the 2 towers remain. So it's going to happen for building 3. It's unclear yet. It depends on the housing needs and where, you know, we're hoping that we can take both towers down to construct building 3, but most likely we'll be removing 1 tower. Building 3 gets constructed. The people move from tower B into building 3, and then they knock down tower B. And this is totally dependent on funding. This process, you know, this project is looking to be a 5 or 6 year project to completion. And that is predicated on that the funding mechanisms for this project are highly complicated. So that it's predicated on the funding. But each phase is designed to stand on its own. But once again, the first phase, I believe we're looking to begin, I think in 2025, I believe. I'm not sure, but the first phase and all the work of the first phase is totally outside of the buffer zone. But what we need to do is we need to permit the projects as a whole. And then just the other item that we're actually will be permitting concurrently with conservation will be subject to site plan review, which I believe we're submitting that in a couple weeks. So I think I'll wrap it up and open up questions to the commission now.
Are the total number of apartments going to be the same? Will it service the same number of people?
Yes, we are going to service the same. Let's see. I should know the number.
Not gonna be an increase. Yeah, I didn't see anything that said the number of
It
apartments.
might have been at the very. Let me see if I put it in the narrative. I hope I did. How many units were there? I wish I should know.
Because I would expect that there would be an increase in demand as the population ages.
Yes, unfortunately, there isn't the ability to expand on this site. I'm sure if we could, we would. 2-to-1 replication, current conditions, 10 stories.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, I can follow up with that and share that with the
Because I noticed it was 2 10 stories and now it's like a 776 or something.
Yeah, 776. Yes, it is. And part of that is when you go above 7 stories, the construction costs get exorbitant. And I don't think the funding can support going over 7 stories here.
Interesting. And the parking is a little bit less, I think, than it was.
I think we're parking the same. I believe it's about the same parking. I believe we're parking at the same. As far as the number of spaces, I believe it was 163 current and 163 proposed. Some of those items I know. So this was submitted to the zoning board of appeals. I think it required some variances or maybe a special permit through the for findings, and that was approved. So we have crossed the zoning board of appeals hurdle, and now we're currently submitting to conservation and also planning board.
Kyle, you're up.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Steve. That was a great summary of the project. I don't really have anything to add to the summary portion, but I will just kind of move quickly into the recommendation. Again, this is very similar to the last project in that obviously there's a lot of work within floodplain. There's stormwater that needs to be confirmed here. So my recommendation is that we send this out for peer review. But again, because of the uncertainty with the whole process, I'm recommending that the commission just vote to send this out for peer review whenever that gets ironed out. And when that happens, we will do that as soon as possible. That way we can, keep this project moving forward. But beyond that, I don't really have anything else to add tonight, Madam Chair. There is a hand that's been raised from
I
the
was just
attendees.
going to ask if do you mind if we ask the commissioners first, though, just in case other questions
No,
come up
absolutely.
as a result of that? Commissioners, any questions or comment?
I'm comfortable with Cal's recommendation with the peer review. Again, with the circumstances being what they are, I think that's the best way to go so that things can continue to move forward as we progress with these new city council ordinances.
I agree with that. I did have one question again. Real quick, could you show again? Just you mentioned that walkway that's within the 25-foot. I think.
A path along the river?
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
just this little sliver here. I'm
The-
sorry, you know what? I need to go back. I
You're
gotta
not
share.
sharing
Yeah,
screen.
wait, here we go. I gotta go back to share screen. Here we go.
No problem.
All right, we back?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's just this little sliver here of walkway, and I'm not sure. I believe it's either going to be bituminous or a compacted chipstone, but it needs to be ADA compliant.
Right.
And what I will say is that we're reducing tenfold. But prior there was parking, and I think in the report I referred to the reduction of impervious surfaces within the 25, which we're providing a substantial reduction of the impact of this degraded site in the 25-foot no-touch area.
The circles with the little arch things?
Trees.
They're
So
trees,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I thought
I think, so there's trees and there is a planting list. I didn't ask the
Okay.
landscape architect
okay.
to be on,
Yeah,
but there is a plant list,
That's okay.
and also the seed mix here. As far as a lot of these, I'm an engineer, so I don't understand what these grasses are, but I did see goldenrod. I saw some milkweed, all the stuff that we like.
Sneezeweed. That's funny. But it looks lovely. I mean,
Yeah.
In our imaginations. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great project. It's a great project for the city, great project for the housing authority, and I'm excited to be a part of it. That's for sure. And we're just trying to, I think the trickiest part of this is the funding, and then unfortunately the price, the costs of construction now and everything is just very expensive. So we're forging forward, in the about Brockton Housing Authority and all the powers to be are working hard to make this all happen.
Good. Okay, commissioners? Is there anyone from the public with questions? Did you have a hand raised? Kyle?
Yeah.
Michelle?
Yeah, okay. Michelle's the architect on the project. She's
Hi, yeah, thanks for letting me speak. I just wanted to, I was lurking in the background listening to Steve's excellent presentation, but I just wanted to chip in and say, to help him out with a couple of the stats for your benefit. The number of apartments is almost exactly the same. It's currently 398 in the 2 towers. It's going to be 400 in the 3.
Okay.
And the amount of parking, I believe, is exactly the same.
Okay.
There's not a great need of parking at the site. But I did also want to just kind of, I think Steve made a great case, but this is an incredible need at this development for new construction. I think everything we're doing is going to mitigate existing problems on the site and greatly improve it and provide a resource for the residents and really work to preserve the natural resource that's there. So anything that we can do to expedite the process and keep this project moving forward would be really greatly appreciated.
Great. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Michelle.
you.
And was there a lot of flooding this past spring?
There's been flooding regularly. The authority has to sandbag the site to keep water out of Building B. So when I was just there a couple months ago, they were preparing for another storm and they got water in the building. So it does happen regularly. The clock is definitely ticking for these buildings. So the early January start is ambitious, but we've been, working very hard to make that happen.
Mhm. Okay, hopefully we'll be able to get at least the consultant hurdle done quickly.
I hope so. Thank you.
No one else from the public?
I see no hands, Madam Chair.
Commissioners?
So I want to make a motion to continue to refer to the peer review and then continue the hearing once we have established who the peer review folks would be based on Kyle's recommendation.
I second that motion.
So the motion's been made and seconded to continue the notice of intent for 1380 Main Street, to refer it to a outside consultant for stormwater and evaluation, and then to move it forward.
Yeah.
So the vote, please. Roll call vote.
Clay, aye.
Green eye.
And Boris, aye. That motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Nice job, Mr. Sawyer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
We have continuances, don't we?
Yes, we do. The next one that's continued is contract building on East Ashland Street. That's correct. And then that will be continued till next month at Mr. Ferry's request, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Item 6 on the agenda, notice of intent for 511 Thatcher Street. That's the solar canopy construction. I believe Mr. Daggett was interested in speaking, right?
Yeah, and Scott is still a panelist from before, so yeah.
And does Scott work for Farland?
Yes, and also Laura from Beta is here with us tonight. So
good.
if Scott is not here currently, I guess she could.
Looks like he just unmuted himself, so.
Oh, okay, great, thank you.
First of all, my apologies for interrupting
No problem.
that previous. I didn't realize my mic was not muted.
No, it's fine.
So my name is Scott Daggett, Senior Project Manager of Farland Corp. I believe Mr. Holden had spoken to Chairwoman Voorhees about reviewing the project and the ongoing beta review and meeting their requirements. So I believe it was asked of one of us to attend tonight's meeting to address any issues that may be ongoing.
So my understanding is that you had a video conference with Beta, and Kyle, you were there as well, and you
Yes.
hashed out a bunch of stuff. And then I did see that there was a fairly extensive Beta report that was submitted, right? Which was just a couple of days ago, and I unfortunately didn't see it until I opened up the file yesterday. Was it today or yesterday? And it is pretty extensive. And now my understanding is that Farland will respond to you, to Beta, with comments. Is that correct? Based on what your comments were?
Yes, so I can just give a brief overview. So since this project, I think the last time they were before you was back in November. It's been a while since you've seen it, and it is a pretty substantial project, but many of our comments have been addressed through some back and forth. There's really only 4 outstanding comments at this point. So, I thought it was a good time to, I think that everyone who's involved in the project thought it was maybe a good time for you guys to see the project again, know what the project is, know what the changes were, and then, there will be some minor revisions to comply with the rest of our comments. And then going forward, you might be able to make a decision maybe at the next hearing. So that next hearing, you weren't just getting everything and it was the first time you've seen it in 6 months.
It has been a while, yeah. Mr. Daggett, did you want to give that information, or are you comfortable with Beta doing the presentation?
So I do have a list. I have a current review that was dated June 24th of 2024. I believe that's the most current one.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gone through and have addressed, I believe, nearly all of the outstanding responses from Beta. And within the next day or two, after I've passed these along to Christian for review to make sure that, they, satisfy, what he thinks is appropriate, I hope to get these in Kyle's hands within a relatively short amount of time. I was unable to attend the meeting between Beta, Kyle, and us here at Fallon Corp. I was away at the time, so I do not know exactly what was discussed, but Christian did pass along a very generalized description of what needed to be addressed. So I have gone, since early this week, I have gone through that list and have addressed, I believe, every comment or outstanding comment that was that Beta had advised.
Okay. Now, I know that we haven't seen or heard much since November, so we do need someone to give us a quick overview of what's happened to the project and what, I'm not sure Kyle or Laura or Scott. If someone could do
Sure.
it, normally it would be the applicant, but whatever.
So I think since I think since November, I had given compensatory storage calculations, which were pretty extensive. I hope they were satisfactory. We have also made some minor changes, basically changing the location of the concrete pads that are going to be housing the electrical components and the batteries. We wanted to keep that further away from the wetlands that were in that one particular corner.
Mhm.
And now that that other gentleman was referencing the Whitman project, the sewer main. What I would like to do is just make sure that the information that I have matches anything that he may have relating to the location of the easement and the location of the sewer force main line, just to make sure that we don't have any conflict with the pile locations for the solar canopy.
Mhm.
So all in all, I believe, as we're addressing these comments from Beta, we're getting closer and closer, to getting this completed. I apologize for this ongoing, back and forth with Beta and trying to meet their requirements. But I think we finally got a handle on it now.
Mhm. Mhm. But it is a pretty extensive project, and I think it was a pretty degraded property. So, yeah.
Yeah, we're hoping that, by implementing and installing these solar canopies, it will address a lot of their current issues.
Mhm.
Hopefully that they can, there's a project in New Bedford called Goyette's, an auto salvage yard, in which they substantially cleaned up their salvage yard, neatened, the arrangement of the vehicles, the salvage vehicles and so forth. So we're hoping that once we start getting to, putting shovels into the ground, that when they go ahead and they reestablish their auto salvage yard, that it'll be, more presentable, cleaner,
Mhm.
More manageable for them, and not so much of an eyesore.
Mhm. Laura, would you mind summarizing then what the final four concerns were or whatever?
Absolutely, and I can also share my screen with the
Okay,
most
great.
up-to-date plan, so you can
Thank
see.
Thank you.
I mean, this plan is not the final plan, as Scott noted. There'll be an updated plan, some final information, but some of the things that were added to the plan, the dewatering area at the center of the site, which is good. It's, as far as it can be away from all of the adjacent wetlands. They did, first, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. They also moved their material, equipment, and storage area out of the buffer zone. So that's located in this area here. The equipment pads that Scott was referencing, those were located here previously. Now they've located it closer to the driveway, so further away from the wetlands. As he noted, they've provided more substantial calculations on their plans with respect to floodplain, their compensatory storage, and then they also provided very detailed calculations on all of their fill and how they actually arrived at their numbers. So they were able to demonstrate that they meet the performance standards for cut and fill requirements. A couple of the remaining comments that still exist. So this area on the south side of the property here, they did label this area to be maintained as lawn. The question is, like, what is the disposition of this area? So that's one of the comments that was in our letter from Monday. A second comment, and this one is a was a recommendation for a special condition was with respect to the context storm scepter unit that's actually proposed within the Thatcher Street right of way. We're recommending that prior to construction and especially prior to installation of this structure, that there be documentation of approval from the DPW prior to it being installed because it's not within the property itself. Another comment that still needs to be addressed is all of their cut and fill calculations are related to when these pads were actually in this location. It actually, I think, is a benefit. It'll benefit the calculations where they are shown now. So you know, I don't see an issue with it. It should just be consistent with the plans. And then finally, there are couple of really, they're kind of housekeeping comments, but we want to make sure that the documents meet the standards. So one of them is that there needs to be a plan in the O&M plan that documents all of the stormwater features and exactly what is required. So there should be like a plan like this in the O&M plan that has all the various features pointed out, what needs to be maintained, and then also that a redevelopment checklist be filled out because this is a redevelopment site for the stormwater standards. So that's what's remaining on this. And sorry, I skipped the wildlife habitat evaluation. So that's something that also needs to be provided. I did see that one was submitted. You know, I think it was maybe yesterday or I have not had a chance to look at it yet, but you know, they have provided something. We had recommended potentially, and this is, you know, up to the commission whether you require it or whether the applicant is amenable to it, because this area is being cleared and right now it is within the tree line and it's within floodplain and within the inner buffer zone. It is presumed significant for bordering, it's presumed significant for wildlife habitat. So if they could do something with like low growing shrubs in this location or like a wildflower mix or something like that, they will be providing some level of wildlife habitat that could enhance that area. So that's something that we had recommended in our letter. And if that is included in the plans, you know, that area now being able to continue to provide wildlife habitat wouldn't need to be considered a permanent BLSF alteration. So that comes out of their calculation. It's still a calculation, but it would not contribute to them not meeting the performance standards. But that's what remains. I think all of them are fairly easily addressed. But, you know, I guess, I don't know if the commission has any questions for me or for the designer at this point on this one.
Ruby, Lily?
I don't have any questions. I think once those 4 items are addressed, so maybe we can move forward at the July meeting once we get all of those outstanding items addressed.
I would like some time to digest too what the beta
Right.
report was too. And yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Kyle, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Is there anyone from the public that is here to address anything?
I do not see any hands raised.
Lily, any comments?
I guess I do have one comment. So Scott, I did send you an email that had Andrew's contact information, so you can coordinate with him about getting that information about the easement.
Yeah, thank you. I did see that email and I will be contacting him tomorrow morning.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you.
So really, we just need to continue to the next meeting so that way we can have a final response from the applicant to beta and then get a report from the agent to see how all of that ties together.
Yep.
Does that sound reasonable?
Yep. Sounds good.
Okay. So I'd entertain a motion, please.
Yep. I make a motion to continue 511 Thatcher to the next meeting, July of 24.
I second that motion.
Okay, so the motion's been made and seconded. I'd like to say, in addition, that we would like to see responses from the applicant to beta with a final report and an agent report from Kyle as an overview of this project. And so the motion's been made. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Green eye.
And Voris, aye. The motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you to the commission and thank you, Laura, for your input.
Okay, and we'll see you next month.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
Bye-bye. Okay. Item number 7 on the agenda is a notice of intent for 137 Perkins Avenue. Holmgren Engineering.
Yes, I've promoted Scott to a panelist.
There we go. Good evening, Madam Chair, Commission members. Good evening.
Hello, Ms. Perry. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
Scott Faria from Holmgren Engineering. And I'm going to do my best to get you folks back on time, and I'll do this in about 30 seconds, Madam Chair. I'm here tonight for a site plan package at 137 Perkins Ave. This is the third time we've been before you folks. We're before you at the May meeting, and we had just received a positive review from Beta just a day or two before the meeting. The commission really hadn't had a chance to dive into it. Kyle hadn't had a chance to write up his agent's report. I believe he's done that in the last couple of weeks. As we said then, I think we've met all of the conditions that we were looking for, that Beta was looking for, and we're hoping the commission will close things out and issue an order of conditions tonight, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Kyle?
Yeah, sure. So in my agent report, I basically went through and summarized like the findings that Beta included along with any special conditions that they recommended for the commission. So all that language is referenced in the agent report. So if you choose to issue an order of conditions, you can just cite the language that's in the agent report, and that will be reflected in the order when that's issued.
It seemed very straightforward to me. It was well done. Thank you. Laura, is there anything that you'd like to add at all?
Nope, I think that Elise addressed most of the comments and questions at the last hearing, so
Okay.
I think I'm all set. Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions?
No, none. This is looks good. I recommend we do vote on the order of conditions based on the special conditions that Kyle outlined in the agent report, and I think we're okay to move forward.
Is that a form of a motion?
Yes, just based on Lily's feedback as well.
I have no other feedback.
So I know I can make the motion, right? Make the motion to issue the order of conditions with the special conditions outlined in the agent's report for 137 Perkins Ave. But do we have to close this out first?
Oh, we do.
Okay, that's what I said. I'm like, I think I'm jumping the gun here. Okay.
Okay, so I'll need a motion to close the hearing, please.
Yeah, I make a motion to close the hearing for 137 Perkins Ave.
I second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Green eye.
And Boris, aye. Now we can entertain a motion.
Okay, now I'd like to make a motion to issue the order of conditions with the special conditions outlined in the agent's report for 137 Perkins Ave, listed with the special conditions 1 through 3.
I second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Green eye.
And Boris, aye. Mr. Faria.
Thank you very much, folks.
Yes, thank you.
See you soon.
Okay. Let's see. Next item on the agenda, 155 Winthrop Street.
Yeah, I've just got a quick update for the commission. This is the property that they paved the entire backyard all the way up until the brook in the back.
Right.
We issued an enforcement order, and in that order, we required that they submit a remedial notice of intent. And that process was they did submit a notice of intent along with the restoration plan, but we kind of hit a wall because there were some other violations from some other city departments that we were trying to get addressed at the same time. Like this is with the building and the Department of Public Works. So we were trying to do all that at once. So we didn't just address our issue, then have them come back in a year later and have, DPW requiring them to do additional work. So I spent the last 2 or 3 months trying to coordinate with those departments, but ultimately that didn't really pan out. So I think at this point, the recommendation is that the commission just moves forward with what we were recommending, which is that they restore the 25-foot buffer zone to that bank. Now, all that said, there was a communication language barrier between us and the homeowners here. And I have reached out to them before this meeting, but I've not heard back. So this is like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So my proposal to the commission is that I continue to try to reach out to them. And if we don't establish communication and get them back, like actively working with us to get through this notice of intent by the July meeting, then we can just vote to deny the notice of intent and we can fall back to the enforcement order and resolve this issue through that. So that's all that I've got.
Okay, that sounds fine. Now I see that there was a plan here that was drawn up.
Yeah, so I've been working with, this is Pinebrook Consulting. They've come up with earlier this evening. And so, yeah, the plan is basically ready to go. So they could use the same plan with, just with the enforcement order potentially if the notice of intent falls through.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Commissioners, any questions?
None. I'd like to go with Kyle's recommendation, and we make the motion to continue it to the next meeting, allows them some time to, with the putting it together as far as with the communication, being able to, the language barrier and all that stuff. And then we proceed further once we've done that.
So would you like to put that into motion?
I would. I'd like to make a motion to continue this hearing to the July 24 meeting for 155 Winthrop Street.
I second that.
And that is with the understanding that if there is no action, then we can refer to the enforcement order.
Correct.
And deny at that point.
Yes.
Okay. That motion's been made and seconded. Roll call.
Clay, aye.
Green, aye.
And Boris, aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Let's see. The next one is continued. That would be Mr. Holmgren. J.K. Holmgren, rather, for the Operation One Roof, but that's continued to next month. The next item on the agenda will be 19 Otis Street.
Yeah, that is correct.
Notice of intent, and that would be Mr. Holmgren.
Yes.
Mr. Faria, I'm sorry, for Holmgren.
That's all right. Good evening again, Madam Chair, Commission Member Scott Faria from Holmgren Engineering, here for 19 Otis Street. Again, this is one that we've had before you a few times. Just to give a quick rundown, we've Mr. Resende, the owner of the property, built a retaining wall and a concrete patio. He kind of has a double whammy. He built it both within your resource areas and buffer zones and on City of Brockton property. So he got in trouble ×2 on that one. We've been going back and forth with Kyle, with the help of Brad Holmes, our environmental consultant, to try to hash out the issues. I think at this point, Madam Chair, we have a pretty good plan and understanding of what needs to be done. And as I said, I think the correspondence back and forth from Brad Holmes and Kyle kind of took care of things. So again, we'd like to have the commission close out the hearing, issue an order of conditions so Mr. Resende can get out there and do the work needed to restore the property and kind of get this stressful situation off of his shoulders, I would say, Madam Chair.
I did notice that in the file, there was an overview for Brad Holmes had done.
Right, correct.
Project narrative.
Yeah, that was something I think we just added in the last day or two. That was
Yeah.
something that I requested in the agent report.
Right.
So yeah, that was addressing specifically the performance standards for the Wetlands Protection Act for the different resource areas that are impacted in this restoration. So that was one of the things that we required, and it's been submitted. So yeah, I guess that's it for now. Sorry.
Did you feel as though that was complete? And
I think that's fine for what we were looking for there. The other kind of outstanding thing that the commission needs to decide upon before we issue an order of conditions would be, is the commission willing to allow the homeowner to do this restoration work, or is the commission more comfortable requiring like a professional contractor do the work because of its proximity to the wetland resource area. So on the one hand, allowing the homeowner to do this will obviously keep costs down, but you've got to balance that between that and the interests of the Wetland Protection Act. And that's a decision for the commission, but that's something that we definitely need to decide before we issue the order of conditions. And we can modify any of the special conditions that I've recommended based upon that, or we can even add additional special conditions to limit what work can be done by whom there. But that's just something that the commission needs to decide before we move forward.
If I could just speak on that for a quick second, Madam Chair.
All right.
We would respectfully ask the commission to allow the work to be done by the homeowner. He did build the wall, so he's obviously capable of doing some construction. As a homeowner, you're allowed to pull permits and to do certain amount of construction on your own property. In this case, it's a significant amount of work, but it's hard work is really what it is. It's handwork. Even if we hired a licensed contractor, they're not going to be allowed to go in there with a machine to remove the wall. It's all handwork. And we would just, again, respectfully request that Mr. Resendez be allowed to use his own hands and save his family the cost and be able to make this right through the city and through the commission and just do the work on his own. We've, as I said, we've gone back and forth with Brad Holmes. Both Brad and I will be consulting and helping Mr. Resendez get the project set up, and we'll be going out there and inspecting it as he does the work, just to make sure that there are no issues, and certainly we'll send pictures as the work continues and keep the commission and the agent up to date on it. But we really would appreciate it if the homeowner was allowed to handle this himself, Madam Chair.
My biggest concern would be that the appropriate environmental, protections would be there before the work is done.
And I think
and that it would be monitored as well by professionals.
Sure. And I think similar to most of the projects, we could get all of those environmental, all of those measures in place, get that to the commission and to Kyle, have it viewed before he actually starts the deconstruction of the wall. So at least you're comfortable that we have everything in place before he starts taking the sledgehammer to the blocks.
And Kyle, would you go out to do a pre-construction visit?
Yeah, I mean, a pre-construction meeting is standard. So we would make sure that the erosion controls are installed before construction begins. In the special conditions that I've recommended, I kind of wrote that in the assumption that the homeowner will be doing that work. So the frequency of the environmental monitoring reports. And again, I imagine that the homeowner is going to want to be doing this kind of just get it done. I can't imagine this is going to take, multiple months. So, in my recommendations, it was like, weekly kind of updates, so they go out there once a week and kind of make sure things are looking good and kind of moving forward with that. That said, there are two things that Scott brought up here that I did not include in the special conditions that should probably be included if we issue the order of conditions. That is requiring all the work to be done by hand and that no heavy machinery is allowed within the 25-foot riverfront area.
Yeah, I do think it says that about the.
I was just reviewing it. I might have missed it, but we should definitely make sure that that's included.
Yeah. And what about the removal? What about what you do with the stuff that's actually removed? Is he going to be taking these big stones and where's he going to put them?
Yeah, it's really cinder blocks, Madam Chair. So, I mean, he's literally going to pick them up and throw them in a dumpster, like anybody would do that's demoing a cinder block structure. So they'll get thrown in a dumpster, and the dumpster will be in the driveway. And then when he's done, the dumpster will take it away and crush it and turn it into somebody's driveway.
Mm-hmm. And what was the DEP comment?
They had a few comments. And most of this was more on the administrative side, making sure that the applicant provide, impacts to the resource areas and to describe and to demonstrate compliance with the performance standards, which is what that most recent document was that Brad and ECR provided to us. So that's what a majority of it was. And then there were some other things that they recommended that we include in a special condition if we issue the order of conditions. And that's kind of baked into the comments that I have in the agent report already.
Mm-hmm. Commissioners, comments?
I do agree with what Kyle put for the special conditions. I think if all of those, if everything is being monitored and all of that's being followed, then maybe we could issue the order of conditions. But again, the monitoring is, I guess, is what it's the concern for me. Just the monitoring that the work is being done correctly for the restoration.
So weekly, would you expect, Mr. Farrier, that there would be photos that would be sent as,
Yes, ma'am.
showing progress along the way? How long do you think it would take him to do this?
I mean, Mr. Rosende obviously has a full-time job. I'm guessing it's a couple of weekends worth of work for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's deconstructing the wall and the patio, and then obviously the plantings and everything. I think at this point, we're already into July. He's not going to want to plant anything in July or August. So I think that part of the work might stretch into the early fall. But I think getting rid of the wall and doing that kind of work will be relatively quick. And I think he'll be able to do most of it within a couple of weekends' time, Madam Chair.
So the one thing that on that, Scott, if we do that and then there's a large gap between the demolition and the restoration, we'll just need to be careful about, leaving that bank exposed. So we'll need to make sure that we have some sort of matting or something down to stabilize that bank in the meantime.
Yeah, I've talked to Brad about that. That's what we figured, some kind of matting, just to protect it.
Should that be added as a special condition?
Yeah, I think we should. This is a court ordered, project. I think the court order requires that all work for this be done within 90 days of issuance of the order of conditions. Now, obviously, if there are planting concerns, we may need to push that back. And I think that legal will be willing to work with him on that, because I agree, we don't want to be planting these restoration plants in the middle of the summer. That's not really going to be a successful thing. So I think that we can issue the order of conditions to get the demolition done, and then put in an additional special condition mandating that there be erosion controls if the restoration isn't done immediately after the demolition.
That would be great.
Commissioners, comments?
No. I mean, as long as we're putting those conditions in there, I think I'm comfortable with the move forward.
Do you feel comfortable enough to close?
Yeah. As long as what those special conditions are in place as far as the monitoring every week and the, mandating the erosion controls and all those other things, then yeah, then I'm fine with that.
Great. And Kyle, you comfortable with that?
I'm sorry, I just muted. Yes, I am. So just to be clear, though, the commission is willing to allow the homeowner to do this work, correct?
I think so.
Okay, great. Yep, and then yeah, I think that's fine. I will add those additional special conditions that we've mentioned, and I think we're ready to go. Yep.
Great. Lily, you agree?
Yeah. So Kyle, you added the one about the handwork and stuff. I saw that in that list. But yeah, the new one about the bank, and I would just kind of emphasize again, if he's doing this work on his own, just that weekly monitoring, if anything does go wrong, that gets reported right away and it comes back to the commission to be addressed.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Perhaps would it be possible for him to give you a schedule of when he's actually going to be doing the work, to make sure that when you're there to monitor is when work's being done?
Yeah, we'll certainly do that, Madam Chair. And as I said, we'll keep in contact with Kyle just to keep him up to date. In between our weekly inspections, just to let him know when things are happening, and
okay.
We'll make sure you're well in the loop, Madam Chair.
Good. Can I go ahead.
Madam Chair, I can add that as a condition too, to have a construction schedule submitted at the pre-construction meeting.
Great, perfect. Good. So I entertain a motion then to close the hearing.
I make a motion to close the hearing for 19 Otis.
I second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to close the hearing on the notice of intent on 19 Otis Street. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Green, aye.
And Voris, aye. And now I entertain a motion, please, to issue an order of conditions with special conditions stated by Kyle.
Yeah, I make a motion to issue the order conditions with the special conditions outlined and/or updated in the agent's report to include any additional items that we discussed at this meeting, inclusive to making sure all the guidelines are met as stated.
Second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to issue an order of conditions for 19 Otis Street with all of those things. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Green eye.
And Forrest, aye.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you for your
Very-
patience and help, Commissioners. Kyle, thank you for your help as well.
Of course, thank you.
You have a good evening, folks.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, let's see, where are we? Otis. And then 82 Eames Street, that's been continued, correct?
Yeah, that one's continued to August.
To August, yep, to August 17th. And then item number 12, East Ashland Street.
Yeah, so I spoke to Scott. This is one of his projects again. It looks like he's left for the evening, but that's okay. So both number 12 and 13 are East Ashland Street,
Right.
Lot A and Lot B. These are very similar projects, but obviously we're going to handle them in separately. But these were basically kind of on hold while this whole new peer review process was worked out. So I spoke to Scott today, and he was comfortable with if the commission were willing to send this out again for peer review under the new processes. He's comfortable with that kind of option, and then we can just get both these projects applied to that new process as soon as that gets kind of ironed out. So I guess the request is for both number 12 and number 13 that the commission vote to refer this to a peer review. When that process gets ironed out, just like we have earlier in the meeting.
Right, so it was referred before, but it wasn't funded, is
It
that
was,
correct?
and Beta developed a scope and fee, and the applicant chose not to fund that scope and fee. And at that point, this whole process had begun. So I think they were aware that there might have been some changes in the pipeline. So now that those changes are here, I think they are ready to move forward under the new process.
Okay. And so that's without any new notice of intent or anything. It's just a matter of once again referring
Yeah.
To peer review.
Yes.
Okay. So then I would entertain a motion for both. Can we do them both at the same time?
Let's not. Let's just do
Okay.
each individual, and we'll just go
I
on.
entertain a motion then for the notice of intent for property at 0 Ashland Street, Lot A. I entertain a motion that notice of that be referred to peer review.
I make a motion to continue 0 East Ashland Lot A for peer review whenever those new ordinances are in place.
I second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Green eye.
And Boris, aye. That motion passes. You want to say the same thing again?
Yep. I will make a motion to continue 0 East Ashland Lot B for peer review for the next meeting or when the new ordinances are put in place. And yeah, that's it for that one.
I second that.
This motion's been made and seconded to refer 0 East Ashland Street Lot B, notice of intent for peer review under the new guidelines. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Green eye.
And Boris, aye. That motion passes as well. Did Mr. Ferry say anything to you about the other? He had a couple of others that were continued that also had been on the agenda for a long time.
Yeah, he gave me an update today. I will email the commission,
Okay,
tomorrow.
That's
about
great.
that. Yep.
That's great. I meant to ask him when he was here, but it's kind of it was continued. So, okay, that's good. Thank you. And then we have number 14, which is 339 Quincy. And that has been continued as well, correct?
That is correct.
The next item on the agenda is number 15, which is notice of intent for 1005 Belmont Street. That was for residential building construction. Is somebody from Joyce
Yeah, we've
Consulting?
got a couple of people here. I will be promoting them.
Hello.
Hi, Mr. Joyce.
Hey, how are you?
Great.
So Michael Joyce of Joyce Consulting Group, civil engineers for the project over at 1005 Belmont Street. Since our last meeting, we've had a site visit. And we've revised our plans, taking the feedback of the commission from the last hearing and applying it to the plan. I will just flip right through to those if that's acceptable rather than, you
It's
know,
fine.
been a long night, so let me share my screen here. Share. And can you see that?
I can see lots of buildings.
Yep, so that's, I'll just, like I said, I'll skip through. This is the old, so this was the old layout that we presented last meeting. Was proposed 31 unit, 3-story residential building. It had a footprint of 5,570 square feet. And the total impervious area within the 25-foot buffer was 1,737 square feet. And that was about a 60% reduction from right now. There's about 4,400 square feet of impervious area within a 25-foot buffer as a result of the existing parking area. So what we did is we kind of shortened up the building by about 16.5 feet. We also shifted it further east towards the existing building, tightened that up as much as we could while still allowing pedestrian path and driveway. And then as a result, we reduced the number of units within the building to 29 units. And the footprint reduced from 5,570 square feet to about 4,630 square feet. And we went from 31 units to 29 units by removing, there were going to be 4 office spaces in the first floor. We removed those office spaces and put units there, which is why we ended up with a net loss of 2 units from shortening up the building. Otherwise, it would have been more. So that's kind of the quick and dirty version of what we had done. We had both of the buildings staked out on site when we met, so I think you guys, the people on the site visit, had a good visualization of what was going on there. And what we were hoping to hear from the commission tonight was your thoughts, your feedback, if this was feasible, and hopefully refer it to some sort of peer review if appropriate.
Well, I think one of my questions was, what's the actual footprint within the 25?
So the actual, so that's the only impervious area within the 25-foot now that we're proposing. And that is 477 square feet. So there is currently 4,400 more or less square feet of impervious area within the 25-foot. If this project was to move forward as proposed currently, there would be 477 square feet, more or less, of rooftop within the 25-foot buffer.
And Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes, please.
And Michael, please correct me if I am incorrect, but that 477 area that's impervious, that's within the 25-foot, any water that lands on that will be directed to the stormwater infiltration in the parking lot. That's going to be designed, correct?
That's correct. All the rooftop is going to be sent to infiltration area below the proposed driveway area. That'll fill up and then that'll overflow to the wetland, or not directly to the wetland, but to kind of the buffer area. And that's going to be designed to meet the city of Brockton standards, which are actually a little bit more stringent than the Mass DEP standards. So.
And if you don't build, it's just going to stay the way it is.
Yeah.
Hard.
Yeah. Currently, I think you saw when you were there, it's used as kind of a staging area and storage area for Father Bill's and Mainsprings operations. Emily Rothschild's on the call as well if she has any input on that.
Yeah, I did notice there was a storage unit that seemed to be right at the end, right up, almost up against the wetlands, as well as a pretty big dumpster that seemed to be right up against the wetlands as well.
Yeah, I don't think they were aware of exactly where the wetlands, and I wasn't aware of the storage being there till we came to the site. We can ask them to move it. But it's on the pavement.
Right.
So
I should have mentioned this. I mentioned at the site meeting, but for those that weren't there, we did explore other areas to put the building, but this really seems to be the place that works the best from a layout and just with existing building separation. It seems like there's space over here, but there really isn't, because this piece of land here between I'm sorry, I forget the name of that street, but the street and our parcel is actually not owned by a roadway here. That's owned by by the gas company to the rear. There's just a temporary easement for access over that parcel.
Seriously, my initial impression was, oh my God, into the 25. Oh my God, we start with into the 25, and how many people will say, but you did it for them, so why can't we go into the 25 as well? But when you sent this, which I think I got this today, the
memo, yeah.
Document with it, yeah, with the % reduction, that was a very interesting document.
Yeah, and I think if this was all a grass field area, we wouldn't be proposing, or we may still be proposing it, but it'd be a lot harder of a sell in my thought than just removing all of that asphalt. And I think right now the plan would be to plant that with loam it and then do like a buffer, New England seed buffer mix. Or if the commission had any other suggestions, we'd certainly be open to them. But and we prepare a landscape plan prior to our next submittal.
Kyle?
Yeah, sure. I'll speak for a moment. Ultimately, this decision is up to the commission. We're kind of weighing that 25-foot no-touch policy, which is not a city ordinance. That's just a commission policy that doesn't have necessarily have legal weight. So we're weighing that versus the kind of site improvement that's being proposed here as well. So this memo here that we have, over almost 4,500 square feet of impervious area. Well, I guess it's about 4,000 square feet. It will be removed. That's right up next to the wetland. There's going to be a lot less water just sheet flowing from that area into the wetland once this is all planted according to this plan. So I mean, it's there are pros and cons both ways, and ultimately it's going to be up to the commission to make that call.
Commissioners, any questions?
So would we just send this to peer review so that we could get the better understanding of the impact to it all?
Well, I think the idea here is we as the commission need to make a decision on the front end of this project, so we don't have the applicant go through this whole process, funding this peer review, developing these plans more. If ultimately we're just going to decide that work within the 25 foot is a no-go, and we were going to deny the project at the end of this anyway. So that's kind of why we're trying to make this decision now, so we can avoid all that extra work and costs associated with developing this project further if the commission is just not comfortable ultimately with work being done within that 25 foot no-touch zone.
Yeah, and I'm actually not comfortable with the 25 foot no-touch zone.
And I wasn't either until I saw this.
Yeah, and the other thing I didn't mention is that the overall, we'll be removing approximately 7,500 square feet of impervious area over the entirety of the site, excluding including the 25 foot buffer, but the impervious area within the 25-foot buffer that we'll be removing is approximately 4,000 square feet, and then on top of that, we'll be doing another about 3,500 square feet
outside of the 25.
outside of the 25, correct.
Mhm.
And I understand there being hesitancy about the 25-foot, but I'm not, I would be surprised if this area of pavement wasn't used in the future in some way, shape, or form. Like we saw, it's natural if you have kind of a paved area in the side that you're gonna maybe store, like we
Yeah.
saw. We didn't even know what was happening till we got there, but I suspect that will be a continuous battle, or not battle, but you know what I mean? They'll always have to be monitored, and really, they do have a paved parking area that they can use as that if necessary, so.
Just right up against, which is right up against, yeah.
Right, so and those are kind of our arguments for.
Yeah.
For this project, but obviously you have, you know, at your own discretion. So.
Mhm.
There's also a tremendous need to house people who are experiencing homelessness in the city. I know it's not really your responsibility in Conservation Commission, but I would hope that you might consider that.
This is certainly where I wish the other members of the commission were here as well for this type of discussion, truly.
So in Kyle's report, so the area within the 25-foot buffer zone, and this is like becoming a residence housing, how would you, or how would, like, to prevent like more trash from like getting thrown out and landing within the buffer zone that could then get to the wetland, how would that be prevented long term? Or how could it be?
That's a good question. We could certainly explore, I guess fencing of some sort, Emily, or I don't think we had relocated the patio to this upper area here. It was here.
Yeah.
We could do some sort of like a 4-foot, I don't know, potentially like a aluminum wrought iron look fence or something of that nature.
Well, we also have maintenance at the site,
Right,
and
right.
I don't think we have trash around other areas of the site.
Yeah, I can speak to that too. I did walk around the existing building one of the first times that I went out there, and it was relatively clean. As far as like there wasn't just a lot of like trash around, you know, more so than anywhere else in the city. So I think that, you know, that it wasn't trashed around the building.
Mhm. Commissioners? Would anyone be averse to continuing to next month? Just with the hope that since the other commissioners would be present for the vote, or is that not? And then at the same time, we'd be able to work through, hopefully, be able to work through all those issues with the consultant.
Yeah, I think given that it's probably going to be delayed anyway I mean, if it's a 30-day RFP process for the third-party reviewers, I don't think waiting a month would delay us any more than we're already delayed.
Commissioners, what do you feel about that? Do you feel that would be, I don't want to circumvent your decision, or I guess, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that would be good to make a motion to the next meeting.
Just to continue to the
Yeah,
next meeting,
yeah,
that'd be okay.
yeah. Especially to kind of, since we still we just got the report
Yeah,
from
we just
the
got this
consultant
document.
and just kind of you know, talk that through. Yeah, I think in all fairness, that would be good.
I agree with the new numbers with that percentage of what's getting turned into permeable and the decrease in the 25-foot impact.
Yeah, it was really pretty enlightening to me. Anyway, Kyle, how do you feel about that?
I mean, that's fine with me. That's fine
I mean,
with.
as long as it's
yeah.
not, as long as it's legal to do it.
Well, I mean, it is. I mean, it is. But just, you know, as long as like we're not just drawing this process out longer than it needs to be, and that's
Yeah,
my
yeah.
concern, right? So,
Yeah.
if the applicant's comfortable with that, then I think that yeah, you can certainly move forward in that direction.
I think we could request a continuance if that's better.
Sure. We'd like to do that, especially since the you know, that whole RFP thing
Yes.
still under, yeah.
I said, one question, is there anything you'd like to see out on site as far as like staking out, or is that, do you have enough information on that end as well? In case you want to visit the site at any time on your own?
What do you think of? I mean, I personally would like to see the movement of the storage facilities and the big dumpster, but
Yeah, I'd be curious where that would get moved to.
That's outside of my control.
Well, yeah.
I prefer.
I can talk to the maintenance
Yeah.
folks.
okay. But as far as staking, I thought it was very clear what you did.
Okay.
Are the chalk lines still there, or do they get rained upon?
It was spray paint, so they should still be
Oh,
there. Yeah.
In case anyone did want to go on it.
Yeah.
It's nice to know that we can go back to take a look. We appreciate that very much. Yeah, so if any of the commissioners didn't see it, they'd be able to
Right.
appreciate that. Okay. So then I entertain a motion then to, oh no, that's right. Emily, you,
So I'm requesting that you continue to July.
okay. So at the applicant's request, we don't have to vote on that, do we, Kyle? As long as,
I mean, technically, I think we do still need to
Okay.
vote.
okay,
Okay, so I'll make the motion to continue to the next hearing date of July 2024 for 1005 Belmont Street project.
I second that motion.
okay, the motion has been made and seconded to accept the applicant's request to continue to July 17th. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, I.
Green eye.
And Boris, aye.
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you very much.
This report was really,
Thank you. Appreciate it.
thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Well, let's see, the next item on the agenda, I think we're into our enforcement orders now, right? Because we have a continuation of Newbury Street.
Yeah, that is correct. Newberry Street was continued until July.
So the enforcement orders are, you will steer the boat here?
Yeah, sure. So the first one, number 17 on the agenda, is 57 River Street. I just wanted to give the commission an update here on this one. So this is the property that they were just adding fill in the backyard historically over like 7 to 10 years. So we had been going back and forth with the enforcement order with them. We took them to court and have a court order from the judge mandating that the remediation take place, and so they owe us a restoration plan by, I believe, August is the date. So I've been in communication with a homeowner there, and he seems to be on track. So that's where we are with that. So just kind of letting you know there.
So do you know he has hired someone?
I know. So I sent him an email earlier this week, and I had not heard back. But but he has until August to provide that plan before we go back to the judge.
Yeah, okay. I hope he knows, yeah. If there's, sequence, okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. The
Number 18.
next one, number 18, is 411 Warren Avenue. I spoke with the homeowner of this property today. This is the one where they built that retention wall and backfilled it to kind of even out the lawn right on the riverbank. So again, we're just requiring that she remove that wall. She is having trouble finding a contractor that's willing to put a plan together for her. I guess she's been kind of cheated, it sounded like, by some people that she's been working with in the past, where they just kind of, she paid them, they are just not calling her back now. So that's very unfortunate. But ultimately, we still need that restoration plan to get this work approved so it can be removed. So I'm going to be meeting her next week. I was hoping she could come to the meeting tonight. She was not able to because it was kind of last minute when I reached out to her, and she's got company in town. So I was hoping she could come to the meeting tonight and talk to the commission, kind of explain her situation. But I ultimately wanted to give her kind of a deadline to get a plan or to us. So if the commission could provide me with a time frame that you think is appropriate, for her to provide a restoration plan, I can convey that to her when I meet her next week, and then we can hold her to that firm date. And if she doesn't provide the restoration plan by that date, then we can refer this to the law department.
Because this has been since
September.
It's been a long time. So
yeah, months it'll be a year and nothing. Yeah, I think we need to. Yeah.
So do you think a 1 month turnaround, the July 17? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
1 month.
1 month.
All right, great. I will convey that to her, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 19 is Brewster Ambulance, right?
Number 19 is Brewster Ambulance, 1507 Main Street. They just provided the restoration plan as requested like 2 or 3 days ago. I have not had a chance to look at that restoration plan, but I'll have a report for you at the next meeting. And I think the representative of Brewster Ambulance is planning on attending the July meeting, so we can talk about the restoration plan and take next steps forward.
Good. Now, will they be filing that restoration plan not as an NOI?
No, I think we're just doing this just under the enforcement order, which is the preferred method, I think.
Yep. Thank you. Okay. Next is number 20, Arthur Estates Lot 2.
Yes, so Arthur Estates Lot 2, as the commission is aware, we've kind of been going back and forth with the Arthur Estates development for a few months since April. Initially started out with just an email, escalated to a notice of violation, escalated to an enforcement order after non-compliance. So I issued the enforcement order in June 3rd, I believe. Since then, we've been served a legal complaint, and in light of all that, tonight what we need to be doing is ratify the enforcement order. However, I revised the enforcement order slightly. I removed all language referring to the 25-foot no touch zone in this enforcement order because that 25 no touch zone is a commission policy rather than a city ordinance. So I've just removed that to remove any complications as far as what's legal and what's not legal. So the new revised enforcement order, which I provided to the commission, is what we are voting on tonight, and this will be approved by the commission and then resent out to the developer tomorrow. So that's kind of what we're doing now. So I guess.
Will that include a narrative as to why a second enforcement order is being issued?
No, not necessarily. So even if no change was made, the commission would still need to ratify the enforcement order. So like the one that I sent out initially was kind of just like a temporary one that would need to be ratified anyway. So by as far as how this works, that could be argued either way. Like maybe that one is voided and this one is the one the commission's actually issuing because this is one that you voted to issue. So either way, but the only difference between what we will be resending out tomorrow and the one previous is just that 25-foot buffer zone language has been removed, and it doesn't substantially change the enforcement order in any way. So I can review the enforcement order. If you want to go through that, I can do that with the commission since we'll be voting on that tonight.
These were the ones you sent out this afternoon, correct?
The ones that I sent to you today, yeah. Would you like me to pull that up?
Yes, please. I'm not sure which one is which.
Yeah, one moment, please. Okay, I can share my screen.
Street extension. Okay, that's the road one.
Yeah, so there are two. This development was there were two kind of notices of intent that were kind of bundled together. So this is the one for lot 2, which is the first one that we're talking about now. A lot of similarities between both of these enforcement orders. Lot 2 has a few extra things in it as far as in the order of conditions. Lot 2 requires an environmental monitor. And it also has specific language in lot 2 about sediment transfer, but beyond the limit of work. Both enforcement orders kind of reference that because the site plan for both enforcement orders kind of also references sediment transfer beyond limit of work. But in any case, I've got some photos here. You guys had probably read all this. So this is just kind of a summary of what's, the events that led to the issuance of the enforcement order. And then here in the required mitigation measures are the things that the commission is requiring of the applicant here. Cease and desist all work pertaining to the development until all of the following items have been addressed. The number 2 is display the Department of Environmental Protection file number at the site, which is required for all orders of conditions. This has not been installed as of Monday when I was out on the site last. So that's just something that just needs to be installed. Remove all obstructions that prevent existing silt stock erosion controls from making contact with the ground and functioning properly. There are the initially installed perimeter erosion controls had been installed over the top of like down trees. There are some photos that we can look at a little bit later here. So that just needs to be remedied. Those erosion controls need to be installed correctly. I have some language in here about how that should be done. The commission does not want the applicant to pull the trees out from the buffer zone that's beyond the limit of work. So the limit of work is the limit of work. So we are requiring that they use a hand tool or a saw or something to cut those trees at the limit of work, remove the portion of that down tree that's within the limit of work so that the silt sock can lay on the ground and function as proper there. So that's kind of what number 3 is about. Number 4 here is establish new erosion or sediment controls where necessary to prevent sediment transport down Arthur Street. I got some photos of that too. The sediment transport is moving down Arthur Street, and it's going into these stormwater catch basins, which ultimately empty out into a resource area. So that's the argument for that. That's something that Mass DEP has enforced in the past. So that's not really a problem there. So I just have some recommendations as to how that can be done. There's a lot of sediment coming from the Lot 2 development that's just running down Arthur Street. And then finally, the last couple of points here are about the environmental monitor that's required in the order of conditions. This is not something that I just made up. This was in the order of conditions that was agreed upon, when the order was issued. The environmental monitor is required, and they have to provide information to us. They missed the deadline for this, which was June 17th, to provide that information for the commission. And then finally, the last point there is the environmental monitor needs to conform to all the regulations outlined in the order of conditions as far as the monitoring frequency, monitoring reports to the commission, and so forth. So that's really what this enforcement order dictates. And again, the only difference between this one and the one before it was we removed language in point number 3 that referred to the 25-foot no-touch zone. And that didn't appear anywhere else in the enforcement order, just within this point 3, and we just pull that language out. It doesn't substantially change anything. The order is still effectively the same, but we just removed that language. So that's what this one is. So I ask that the commission vote to issue or ratify the amended version of the enforcement order, and I will send out the updated version of this document to the applicant in the morning.
The 7th point on there about the June meeting, does that get updated to then be July meeting?
No, I mean they're here tonight, so they can
okay.
speak to this this evening after we kind of get done with the commission business. But no, I mean, so like come to the meeting tonight. But that said, Commissioner Green, they have filed a lawsuit against us, so they are disputing this entire document and the need to follow any of these remediation actions. So at that point, this is going to be handed over to the legal department. Any questions from the commission for me about this document?
No.
I guess I can show some photos here. So we'll continue down. Sorry. All right. So photo 1 and photo 2 are some of the first photos that I took out on the site. You can see there's obvious evidence of sediment deposition here on the asphalt that was paved as part of the Arthur Street extension. This is I think this is the northern portion of the property or of the asphalt there. And this next photo here is just the other side of the same road right there. And you can see there's also some sediment deposition farther down the street here. These are some photos that I took out just a few weeks ago before I issued the enforcement order. There was a big heavy rainstorm in Brockton, and I was able to get out there while it was raining. And you can see there's sediment in this water as there's an area of concentrated flow on the edge of the asphalt because there's been a lot of water that's flowing that has flowed down through there and eroded kind of a trench channel. So that's what you're seeing here. This water is originating from the very large area in the back here that's just now, it used to be wooded, and now it's clear. And the clearing is not a problem. That was part of that's what was approved. But the fact that it is now clear and it just results in a lot more water flowing off the site than historically has been there. So what you're seeing now is there's channeling that's occurring here, but you can also see there's just visible sediment in the water here, right? So the next series of photos are me just kind of taking steps down Arthur Street away from the site. And you can just see how far this sediment is being transported away from the construction site. So this is a next step back. You can see here's the DEP file number sign for the next enforcement order. It's a different sign. They need to have two signs with two different numbers on. So they have one, but not both. So as we're stepping back here, you can just see there's still sediment in the water. It's just flowing down Arthur Street. Additionally, we're just following down Arthur Street here. This is a bunch of larger gravel and sediment that's been deposited here from the rain. Again, this is the newly paved asphalt that they installed in November. There are erosion controls all along here. The wetland area is in that wooded area back there. So these erosion controls are in decent shape. They are functioning. The sediment didn't come from the other side of the erosion controls. The sediment came from uphill on Arthur Street. This is the next lot down. They are having some erosion issues here as well. There's a little area of concentrated flow here that's adding to the water on Arthur Street. But you can see that there's a clear direct line of the sediment carrying water that's coming from the site all the way down here. And even here where the water is coming from the wetland back over here, that's not filled with sediment. That's just like clear water. And there's more sediment in this water. Again, we're taking more steps back. And then this is a different property owner here that was complaining about this area here eroding out just recently within the last year. So that's again very directly caused by this erosion from Arthur Street. All the way down. This is the last photo that I have here. This is a stormwater catch basin. Well, I guess it's not the last photo. I've got a couple more. But this yellow here is kind of a catch bag. It's an erosion control measure that's installed, and it's sitting in there, and it's supposed to catch all that sediment as it goes in the catch basin before it goes into the waterway. But obviously, there's more sediment. This individual catch basin here is completely clogged with sediment. It's not really functioning super well, and there's more water flowing beyond that, as you can see here at the bottom of the photo, that's still laden with sediment. I'm going to skip down here to the last couple of photos. So this is that same catch basin that we just looked at, and you can just see here it's just full of sand and sediment. It's clogged completely, so it's not really functioning to drain water at this point because it's just so clogged with sediment, and all that sediment is just continuing to work its way down Arthur Street. I'm going to roll back up here a little bit. So these are some photos that I took after the May meeting last month. The applicant went out before the May meeting. They came out and they installed these straw wattles, and you can see this is catching a lot of sediment here, but not all of it. So the photos that I took of the running water were taken after the installation of these erosion controls here. So additional erosion controls need to be installed on the site to stabilize it, to stop all the sediment transport beyond the limit of work and down Arthur Street. So these are this is just another angle of that same photo where this is all heavy sediments, stones that have been washed down here because the site uphill on the construction site isn't stabilized appropriately. Just another shot of that same kind of area. This is the other side of the road, and you can see here where the erosion controls don't even go to the, they just kind of terminate here, so that they're not really effectively stopping any sediment from being transported over here. There just needs to be a lot of attention to this area. I was recommending in my initial discussion with the developers that they do some erosion controls farther up gradient, where the asphalt, like the cul-de-sac curb, meets the actual construction site that's been cleared, rather than just doing something at the very, very end here. Because I think at this point, the water velocity is just so high because it's just been completely unregulated up until that point, that these erosion controls at this point aren't sufficient enough to stop that water flow and that sediment transport. And again, here, this is what you're seeing here, kind of where I'm standing. I'm standing in the lot 2 area, and you can see there's channeling that's occurring here. You can see where the cul-de-sac, should be round, but there's all this sediment that's just being transported on top of the asphalt since November, and that's all because there's been water flow through here. And again, this sediment erosion within the site isn't necessarily a problem, but the problem is that it's going beyond the limit of work, which is impacting the catch basins and the stormwater system of the city, and it ultimately impacts a resource area. So that's the concern here. A couple of last photos of just more of that kind of sediment transport from the unstabilized lot to the asphalt area. This is one thing that we talked about earlier about the erosion controls not being installed correctly. The black erosion control here was the original silt sock that was installed on site. And you can see here, you can just see directly underneath the silt sock. And so what the enforcement orders are requiring is that they cut this tree here and remove the portion that's within the limit of work and dispose of that properly. And so this erosion control can lay on the ground and function properly. This straw wattle that they've installed around this is what they did before the May meeting as a temporary fix. My argument that's detailed in the enforcement order is that, well, first off, any erosion that's caused by rain that's falling within that little horseshoe still has the potential of running off beyond the silt sock sediment control into the wetland resource area. But also, when they get farther along in this development, they're going to need to be regrading and seeding this area to lawn once they get that far. So there's no real, my argument is that this should just be done the right way, rather than with these kind of half measures that are temporary anyway. So that's kind of what the enforcement order kind of details, and that's kind of the end of the photos here. Any questions from the commission about the enforcement order?
No. None for me.
Okay, and then I guess we would need to vote to ratify or issue the amended enforcement order with the language removed.
Does anyone have questions, Lily or Ruby? You're set.
No, I have no questions.
No questions.
Okay, then I entertain a motion then to ratify the enforcement order as stated.
Yep, I make a motion to ratify the enforcement order as stated.
There are actually 2, correct?
Yeah. So I'll do the first one for.
Well, so we can do them
Mhm.
together. We can do them separately, and however you want. But there are 2 separate orders that need to be ratified. That's correct.
Okay. Yep. So, all right. So I'll make a motion to ratify enforcement order for Arthur Estates Lot 2.
I second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to ratify the enforcement order for Arthur Estates Lot 2. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Green, aye.
Morris, aye.
And then I make a motion to ratify Arthur Estates extension.
Ruby, if I may, Ruby, I just want to clarify the kind of the differences between these two, because they both kind of overlap quite a bit. The second enforcement order for the Arthur Street extension does not include any language about the environmental monitor, because that's that's a condition that was specifically in the Lot 2 development. So that's not in the Arthur Street extension. And there is the Arthur Street extension has the DEP file number already in place. We saw that in one of those photos. So that's also not in the enforcement order for the Arthur Street extension. Beyond that, basically it's the same set of conditions, same set of things that we're talking about. And I can go through that order specifically if you want, but those are the differences between the two.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, I think that's fine as well. So,
Okay.
so in a nutshell, it doesn't need to be ratified because it doesn't have any language that speaks of anything that
Oh, it
different
does.
than what it was.
Well, and I just want to pause for a moment. Andrew Spath and Jason Kennedy are in the chat, and we will give them a moment to speak here, but after this. But I just saw Jason put his hand down, so I thought he had left for a moment. These are two different agenda items, Madam Chair. I don't know if you want to. We did vote to ratify the first one for Lot 2. I don't know if you want to let them speak now, or if you want to vote to ratify the second enforcement order before we allow I mean, these are the people that we're issuing the enforcement order to.
Sure, Andrew, and if you'd like to, yeah, it's
Okay,
fine.
before we move on to the second enforcement order, we'll just do the first one first. Okay, great. All right, well, I will promote the two of them. And I would also, before we move into this, I will remind the commission that this is under active litigation now. So a discussion about the legality of any of this is probably inappropriate. All right, I promoted both Andrew Spath and Jason Kennedy to be a panelist.
Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Spath, hi.
Good evening, Commission.
Hi.
Hello. This is Andrew Spath again.
Hi, Mr. Spath.
Well, I'd like to start by saying I'm very disappointed. I was here last time and asked quite specifically for the Commission to work with us. This presentation from Kyle is very inaccurate, to say the least. We spoke multiple times about we haven't been on the site since November. We had a site visit. We added some additional erosion controls. We spoke about removing trees as soon as we're back to the site with some equipment to do so. In the meantime, we'll take some temporary measures because we have had no erosion past this limit of work. Where these down trees are, we've added erosion controls in multiple areas, even outside of the 100-foot buffer, which, whether we argue it or not, we believe is outside your jurisdiction. I asked specifically for you to work with us, and apparently that's falling on deaf ears. Those photos are from a rain event that was 2 inches in about an hour. It was a very unique event. It was a very minor amount of sediment that had washed out. There's been none since. I also want to point out that Mr. Holden, some of the photos that he presented showed erosion from the neighbor's property that they'd been complaining about over the past year. We haven't been there for a year. This is an existing condition. When you have a roadway that's a grade of 6 or 7%, which this is, you're going to have washout down the edge of the road, regardless of whether there's construction there or it's just a gravel road. I firmly believe you're being quite unreasonable and have asked for you to work with us so that we can put this project behind all of us, and instead that doesn't seem to be the case. So I guess I'd like to hear your ideas on what we need to do to move forward here, because that's the only way that this is going to get resolved is we are able to be back to the site and completing the roadway.
Well, Mr. Spath, if you don't mind, I do believe we did discuss, once things are cleared, that there frequently can be erosion, and that's the reason to have really good erosion controls. erosion control is preventative, correct? It's not, you don't wait to say, oh, look, it's not going into the wetlands, because the whole point of having it there in the first place is to assure that it doesn't go in the wetlands. But if it doesn't go in the wetlands, it does look like it does get redirected, perhaps into a stormwater drain that's going to eventually drain into the wetlands. And I think that was the point that we were trying to make. And I do believe also that we had asked, and I don't remember if it was Mr. Kennedy or you, if there was an original requirement that there be an environmental consultant to be able to monitor such things. And that was in the original order of conditions when it was issued before this agent was even on board.
Excuse me, Joyce. You were at the meeting when I went through this project approval. The only environmental monitor was for lot 2. I had a pre-construction meeting with Kyle about a year ago. He approved all the erosion control, first of all. Second of all, he also agreed on the email that the environmental monitor is for lot 2. In the roadway order of conditions, we're legally allowed to clear to the limit of work, which is part of lot 2. It doesn't enact the lot 2 order of conditions until we get a building permit and start doing a home construction. That's what we talked about at the meetings that we were at with Megan Schaaf.
But once the lot is cleared, that's when erosion can begin. No?
When you remove the tree, you are allowed to clear to the limit of work under the roadway order of conditions. That doesn't invoke the second lot order of conditions.
Did you not clear the second lot? That lot was originally treed, was it not? The second lot?
Partially. And Kyle was incorrect. There was existing runoff from this roadway. And that catch basin that he took pictures of, the reason this all started, and Kyle is not being accurate. This is why there is litigation, because the neighbor cut trees down that blocked the drain that caused erosion. And that's why there's erosion in front of 160 Arthur Street. And that picture he showed, that wasn't from us. Okay. We did the whole road without any issues. And then Kyle got a call from the neighbor that wasn't happy. And all of a sudden it attacked our project. This is a distressed property in Brockton that needs housing, and Kyle shut it down because he didn't get his way and tried to jurisdiction under over 100 feet out of the
Kennedy,
buffer.
It's not like it's being shut down permanently.
It says cease and
cease and desist until the following things are repaired. That's all. I can't hear you.
Well, I've muted him, Madam Chair. I think we all need to kind of take a breath.
You don't think that it's inappropriate to mute a presenter while he's in the middle of speaking with the commission?
Andrew, excuse me.
No,
Andrew,
hold on.
So I'm going to mute you too, because at the beginning of the meeting, the chair outlined the appropriate decorum and tact that is expected at these meetings. So if people are getting heated and voices are being raised, yes, we will be muting speakers if they're being inappropriate.
You said it didn't affect the resource area. That
when voices are raised directed at the chair,
Kyle,
things need to take.
I did not raise my voice.
That's human interaction, Kyle.
I was speaking with
Madam Chair. Are we done with this?
I'm sorry, but this is my business. Sorry that you don't feel any compassion for that, Kyle, but this is our business. And you shut it down because you sorry, Joyce.
Kennedy, it is not a permanent cease and desist.
There should be no cease and desist. Look at what we did. I went there. I went there Monday and put the sign up for lot 2, which Kyle said he didn't see, but it's up on lot 2. And you should see the trash that people dump there. How come Kyle doesn't enforce that? He lets people go there and do drugs. There's needles on the ground.
I think it's time to move past this. So this is not productive.
Yes, I agree totally. This is not the point of this discussion.
Well, ma'am, I'd like to finish my point, please, before Kyle mutes me again.
Please do quickly.
All of the photos we have in writing from Kyle that none of the resource areas have been affected. Correct? That was stated multiple times over the course of this. You guys are a conservation commission entrusted with ensuring that the resource areas are not impacted. They certainly are not impacted. We are asking that you lift the cease and desist and allow us to continue our work and get this roadway complete. Okay, the photos that Kyle is loving talking about silt around the catch basins, but you're also showing in those photos the silt sacks in the catch basins, which would prevent any siltation from entering the basins.
Mr. Smith, I'm sorry, Mr. Spath, have you read what the requirements are in order for you to lift the order? They're not, there's really not a lot that you have to do. It's
Ma'am,
very.
we asked, yes, it was cut chunks of trees out that are buried half on the ground, which I said, I'm fine with doing that, but can you allow us, can you just grant us the time until we get equipment back there? In the meantime, we'll take the temporary measures, which Kyle had presented photos of, around where we put some erosion control around the trees so that we have earth contact around these trees. I mean, he just showed you photos of what we suggested we do until we could do the permanent solution, which requires some heavy equipment on the site. There is no heavy equipment on the site. We haven't been there since December.
I mean, a saw to remove just the piece of log that's on this side of the, it's beyond our discussion now. I really do think it's being pushed to the point where it's just not productive right now. If you,
well, ma'am, I would like to suggest that that's only the case because of how this has been handled. We are asking for you to work with us. We haven't
an environmental monitor.
We haven't. Yes, because we haven't started work on that lot, ma'am. We are allowed to clear that lot under the original order of conditions for the road, which is what we did. When we begin construction on that lot, we will get the environmental monitor. We are currently working our way through trying to get the lots released. We have been working with the city since mid-December to try to do so. Okay, we're now 7 months into this lot release process.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Holden has his hand up.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just think that obviously at this point we've been served a legal complaint. All of these things can be handled by a judge. I don't think this is a very productive discussion. I recommend that we move on to the next enforcement order, ratify that, and then we can move on and finish this meeting out tonight, ma'am.
Sounds great. I would appreciate that very much. Thank you.
So you're going to present to the judge that we're trying to work these out in a meeting and you'd rather go to court to do so? Ma'am, we're talking about some very minor
Exactly, they are minor. I don't understand why you're taking it to this point and charging us with overreach when they're very minor. The actual activity that you are being asked to do is not, it's really not much.
You're asking us to have an environmental monitor on a lot. First of all, it's not even under construction, right? We don't even have equipment at the site.
Madam Chair, like this is something that needs to be litigated. Obviously, there are differences of opinion here. We're not going to resolve anything obviously tonight. Okay. I think we should just move forward. This has been going on for at least 10 minutes. It's time to move forward.
That's fine. Kyle, I look forward to presenting this meeting to some of your superiors. And this is just unacceptable from a public official.
Andrew, we would enjoy your feedback. Please do that. Thank you.
Yeah, I am looking forward to it.
Okay, so well, thank you, gentlemen, for speaking. And now I entertain a motion for ratification of the second enforcement order.
Yep, I make a motion to ratify enforcement order for Arthur Estates extension.
I second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Clay, aye.
Green, aye.
Boris, aye. Thank you very much. The final items on our agenda are the utility notifications.
Yes, so we have 5 different utility notifications on the agenda tonight. We had one late submission after the agenda was finalized. And again, so all of these utility notifications are projects that are generally exempt from filing a notice of intent under the Wetlands Protection Act. So that would be for sewer, electric. It's only when there's like they're working within like an already established area. They're not expanding the project at all. They're just working on like a pipe that's already been laid. So all of these kind of fall underneath there. So we can review them. These are also in the file if the commission wants to look at them in a little bit more detail later. I know it's getting late. So the first one is Eversource. This is a gas line replacement. There's just a little portion of the project that is within the 20 or the 100-foot buffer zone. Do you want me to pull up like a map for to look at, or you just want to kind of review?
No, if you want to take up the map, only if someone were to watch the video or someone from the public, it is a pretty extensive project at Madrid Square.
It is, but only a small portion of that is within
correct.
the jurisdictional area. Yep.
Yeah.
So
If I looked at Madrid Square, I think I would want to know that they were doing that.
Sure. Okay. I will share my screen. All right, so this is the Madrid Square area. So they're basically abandoning an old gas main, and they are installing a new. I think the old one was like a PVC like pipe material. The old one may be metal, and they're transferring it to the PVC. I think that may be the case. But so the yellow is the new piping that they're putting down. And this little hashed green area is the buffer zone, 100-foot buffer to wetland. So there's just a little portion of the project that's within the jurisdictional area. This orange line is the erosion controls that they've installed or that they will install. So that's kind of the extent of this project. And if you want to, like, if the commission's interested, you can go through and read here. And it goes through and it outlines like where in the act the language that details exempt projects and so forth. So this is all above board. Any questions about this Eversource project?
I have none. Thank you.
None for me.
Okay, thank you. The next one is the Brockton Department of Public Works. They are doing various sewer improvements across the city, and they have a nice report they've written up for us. And this is the maps are less helpful here because they're doing like work on like individual sewer manholes all across the city. Excuse me. So it's a little harder to kind of see what areas are going to be specifically worked on. But again, this is an activity that's exempt under the Wetlands Protection Act. The maps that they provided for us. Let's see. Share my screen again, and again, this is just kind of all through the city. So on this, so I guess these are the three kind of portions of the city that they're going to be doing this work, and then these following maps are kind of a zoomed in of that area. So like 17 listed here is this area, and they're doing both chemical root control, where they put like a foam down in a line, like a sewer line, that will degrade all the roots that are kind of growing in there. Later on, they come back like 3 or 4 weeks later and do a follow-up kind of sealant. But they're doing manhole rehabilitation, sewer so it's all kind of detailed in the report. But they're doing a significant amount of work just on the sewer system throughout the city in these different areas. So that's kind of what this notice is for. Any questions about the Brockton
Not for that.
sewer rehabilitations? No.
No question.
The next one, number 14, or sorry, number 24, Trojan Recycling. They just notified the commission that they were doing some dye testing. So this is a recycling facility where I think they were adding the dye internally into their pipe system to see if there were any leaks. This dye is like a biodegradable dye. They provided the commission upon request. They provided us the specs for the dye, like what it's made out of. That's all in the file if you want to check that out. But again, it's biodegradable. It's just kind of a thing where they can use to test and see if there are any leaks in the pipes, so they can address those and fix them. Yep.
I do have a question about that, because it was like a what are they called, a safety data sheet. That's basically what was there. But I'd be more interested in knowing, because Trojan is a very large recycling facility, and I believe it's up against Sarlsbrook, maybe. I don't know exactly, but I'd really like to see what the results would be of the testing rather than.
You know, I can inquire. I don't know if they're going to share that with us, but
Do you think you could just ask just to see?
yeah, and maybe they can give us like a
How often they do
summary,
it?
you know,
Like-
rather than, yeah.
And I believe they're a private corporation, right? I don't know that they're utilities.
Well, right. But again, I don't, so this one's kind of weird because you're right, it's not a utility, but again, I don't think that the Wetlands Protection Act is very specific about like what kinds of activities are regulated. It's like when you alter, fill, dredge, you know, there's some specific language, and like, you know, adding a biodegradable dye isn't a thing that's regulated necessarily. So I think this is more of just a hey, FYI, we are doing this thing. I don't know that it would need to be permitted anyway, as long as it's not a toxic substance that's being added to the waterway.
Okay,
Right.
but we don't need to know if it shows that there's leaks coming out of recycling.
Well, again, they may. I don't know that we have the authority to demand that they share that with us. We can ask, but if they choose not to, I don't know that we can do much about that. But I'll certainly follow up with them.
Thank you so much.
The next one is the Algonquin gas pipeline. So they, you know, this is a gas pipeline. They are mandated to keep these in good repair. These can be dangerous if they run into disrepair. So they do regular inspections of these things. They detected an anomaly. So this utility notification is, hey, we detected this anomaly. We want to go out there and we're going to do some excavation. We're going to figure out what the problem is and we're going to fix it. And so that's basically it. I've got the map here to show you the location of the anomaly. And so this is down here, this is the VA hospital.
There's high schools right there. I see the high school on the right, right between the two yellow lines.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right over here. And then actually, so 1005 Belmont Street that we looked at earlier today, that's this little building right here. But anyway, the dig site and the anomaly area is right here, and it is within a wetland area, but they're going to access this from a road up here, come down on the easement that they own, do the repair work as necessary right there, just to address that anomaly in the pipe.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And then the final one, which again is not on the agenda, but it was emailed to us just a few days ago, is Mass Electric Company Belmont Street Substation. Let's see. And this is still right in that same area. And this is work that's done within the grounds of an existing substation plant. And so that has a different exemption, but they outline it in their report as well. But so basically any work that's done within the already like previously disturbed or you know, paved over area within like a substation for an electric or gas is exempt. So they're just doing some work within the existing kind of site that they have there. So again, this is the location. It's just across from the VA hospital. That little red dot there, and then this is the substation, and they're doing a lot of the work is outside of the 100-foot buffer zone, but they're doing a little bit of work here within the 100, but outside of the 25. Okay. All right, and that was a 3-hour meeting, but that's the last thing on the agenda.
Any questions at all?
No questions for me.
No. I'm tired. Isaiah and Road, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So do I make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Clay, aye.
Green eye.
And Boris, aye. Have a wonderful night. Sleep well.
All right.
Have a good night,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Good to
Bye.
see you all.
Thanks, everyone.